You know how like in
Hello, stranger. How are you? What are you doing?
where they drop the puck?
Yeah.
And then chaos. That's what I'm expecting. But
As long as no one ends up in
How are you, sir? How are you?
good.
How are you?
How are you?
Ready for another day?
Yeah, I missed your call because I was on the phone with somebody else.
I know, I'm just second-class citizen, I know.
No, I told him, I said, this is more important than if the President of the United States was calling. But then they took offense and hey man. how's it
No,
going?
you're fine, sir. You're fine. Hi, how are you? Good, sir.
Terry, how are you?
What I tried to tell you was I talked to Mike and I got 100, 200, and a lot of it's because of abuse.
So we don't have
Past abuse. Because at the end of the year, people believe they have to spend the money and they just spend it all for junk. And it's just,
We can audit that.
but it's historical. But it's historical. There are those that are very, very good.
We will.
And there are those that abuse. To me, why didn't we address the
Okey-dokey.
person? I come from a different world.
Me too.
Turn the ringer down. Turn the ringer down. It's 7:01.
Yeah. Or do that.
Mr. Howell not coming?
We'll be calling.
Here.
Is he? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't see him. Shoot. Guess I'm up. Here he comes.
Here he comes.
There he comes.
Jody coming?
He's late.
I didn't even see him.
Run late.
Usually I see him when he comes in.
Sorry for my tardiness. I had some pressing trivialities.
All right, we'll excuse your detention for this evening. Turn my speaker off. Good evening. Welcome to Kent County Levy Court Committee meeting. We're holding this meeting at 555 Bay Road in Levy Court Chambers, room 203. It's Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Before I officially open the meeting, I'll turn it over to the County Administrator to read how people can join us by phone or by WebEx.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. We are offering this meeting via WebEx platform on the internet, and for guests joining us on WebEx, if you are a presenter tonight, I believe you've already been in contact with Mr. Kennedy, who's made your presentations and arrangements ready for us. If you're a member of the public listening in, you'll note at the end of each committee, there's an opportunity for public comment. We will invite public to address Levy Court at that time. We ask that you state your name for the record and then proceed with your comments. And we will prompt you at those appropriate times, but just take note that if you're on a mobile phone, *3 will raise an electronic hand and we'll be able to see you and bring you into the meeting room. If you're at a computer, there's a raise hand icon at the bottom of the WebEx screen that you can activate, and that will also alert us that you're interested in addressing Levy Court at that time, and we'll bring you in. So, and we'll repeat those instructions at the appropriate times through the meeting. And again, we welcome you to this committee meeting of Levy Court. As a committee meeting, we follow the Levy Court Rules of Procedure adopted for committee meetings, along with the Mason's Rules of Order. Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you. We have 5 commissioners present. Commissioner Buxton and Commissioner Sweeney are running late, but I believe they both plan to be here this evening. With that being said, I'll call the committee meetings to order, and I'll turn it over to Commissioner Angel, who is the Administration Committee Chairman, and he has 5 items on his agenda this evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first one tonight is on DTerra. And I met this group of this company that they take unused, unwanted, and expired goods, drugs, and make them relevant so you can put them in the trash. Throw them in the trash so you don't have to worry about anything happening to it, and it neutralizes them. And I have on online here is Bill. And Bill, please say your last name because I had a hard time trying to look at it and say it.
It's Rick Bilski.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Okay, it's Rick Bilski.
Okay, Rick?
Stick with Rick.
I was going to stick with Rick. So
There you go.
anyway, I'm going to go ahead and let you take over because of, we got 10, 15 minutes here. And so please go ahead and start your presentation, what you want to talk about.
Prior to Rick starting, I'd just like to acknowledge Commissioner Buxton is in the room right now. Go ahead. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Angel. Yes, my name is Rick Bilski. I'm the Business Development Manager for Verde Technology. We manufacture the Deterra drug deactivation system. Deterra is the only safe medication disposal system that provides a convenient and immediate alternative to flushing or discarding medications and still potent drugs from contaminating our water supply and landfills throughout activated carbon absorption. Talking to Mr. Angel yesterday, we were talking about statistics, and he was kind of blown away when he had heard some. So before I show you exactly what the Deterra product is, I just want to give you some statistics. We all hear on the news about 2020 that so far there's counted for 100,000 deaths just in 2020. That's 273 per day. At the end of this 15 minutes, we're going to lose 3 individuals to an overdose. 70% of opioids go unused, so those are still in the medicine cabinets. Every day, 2,500 American kids abuse a prescription drug for the first time. Lastly, I was asked by the AG's office in Florida, he said, Rick, he said, the problem is the fentanyl. He said, the medications that people are overdosing with now is fentanyl. And I agreed with him. But the problem is, I said to AG, I said, the kids are not starting out just going out on the street and getting fentanyl. They're actually starting in the medicine. So we have to clean those out. And he agreed with that. So those are just some rough statistics of what's going on with this crisis, and it's across the entire country, if not. So just a quick demo, and I'm hopefully come on the screen. But basically what you're going to do is tear up, open the pouch. You're going to put your unused medications in. Fill it halfway with warm tap water. What you're going to do is let it air out for 30 seconds, and I'll tell you why. Then basically seal it off, shake it, throw it in the trash. Now, everybody says, what's the active ingredient? For people in the water industry, sewer industry, we use activated carbon. Basically, the medications go into the carbon, adhere to the carbon, and will not be released whatsoever into the environment. Along with that, some people came to us 3 years ago and said, we have a problem, you're throwing plastic into the landfill. What we did, we actually developed our pouch now, and hopefully I can put it out there. We have a green seal on it now. It's made out of 53% sugar cane. So with the sugar cane, it is going to decompose in the landfill a lot quicker to make it safe on the environment. Now with that, a lot of people say, well, how do we get these out into the community? And I get to travel all over the country, so I get to hear these great ideas of what they're doing. You got your vaccine testing sites still going on, people getting vaccinated, perfect time to hand them out there. Partnering with your local pharmacies or grocery store chains to hand them out. Partnering with your healthcare facility. I think one of your large ones in Delaware is Bay Health, is partnering with them. Now, interesting story, 2 weeks ago, I did have a coalition that was at Atlanta's racetrack for the NASCAR race. They handed out close to 10,000 of these pouches to the NASCAR race with people leaving. So I know Kent County, you're home with Dover racetrack, so perfect opportunity there. Just some quick ones, food pantries, funeral homes. If you look at it, after a loved one has passed away, that's a perfect opportunity because there is a lot of medications, especially after a hospice care of someone with cancer. I lost my brother-in-law, and there's an overabundance of medications that were left over. So that's something we need to be aware of. Realtors, when someone has an open house, a perfect time for them to clean out the medicine cabinets there. Fire, EMS, police, daycares. One of my favorites is Meals on Wheels. In 2020, those numbers, over 100,000 people have passed. I think the highest percentage rate is going to show that it's going to be senior citizens because they were confined at home. They could not go to the doctor. And senior citizens poured on to their medications. So during 2020, they basically had to pick and choose what they wanted to take because they weren't going to a doctor. And I'm afraid that's where we have seen the greatest increase of overdoses. Just the last one, state fairs, county fairs, senior centers, nursing homes. So the list keeps going on. So that's one thing is with our company, we believe in educating communities of the best way to hand them out. Sporting events at high schools, getting the kids educated that way. So I don't want to take up much of your time because I do have a short video to show you. And it doesn't matter how large your county is, how large your city is. This needs to be replicated throughout the country to get these medicines out of the cabinet and into the right place and not in our water system. So Mark, if you don't mind, just kind of play this one little short video, 2.5 minutes by Nathan Fletcher, the San Diego County Board of Supervisors.
Rick, is this the video that you're referring to? It shows only 35 seconds. I'm not sure. Okay.
I'll play it and see what he does. I'm sorry about that. Might be the one up on the top in the right hand. There it is.
John Muir said, keep close to nature's heart and break clear away once in a while to wash your spirit clean. It's true.
That's not it.
And I want you to do that in a county park. You see, 80% of those addicted to heroin started abusing a prescription drug, often leftovers in a cluttered medicine cabinet. So let's clean out those medicine cabinets with these drug deactivation bags. We could mail one to every San Diego home. You can take any medication, put it in this pouch, add some water, and throw it in the trash. We could require that any new opioid prescription be accompanied by one of these as well. If we lower the supply, we're going to begin to lower the risk.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to leave you with that.
John Muir,
I represent the manufacturer and everything, but I think it's good to hear from your own peers about what other communities are doing. And something as the size of San Diego taking this on and jumping in with it with both feet. So I want to thank you, Mr. Angel, for having me tonight. And if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Well, Rick, the first one I'm going to ask is, of course, it comes at a cost. I mean, nothing's free. And I know they come in different size pouches, so it's the more. And I hope the more you buy, the cheaper it is. So, is there a kind of a guideline for pricing that you can?
We do have tiered pricing regarding the volume that you're looking at. So yeah, the price does come down with the more volume you do have. We also do have value-added products where if you do want to get like a postcard on it with the commission's word out there about what it's doing, why it's doing it, we can always attach a postcard page for you. We can put a sticker on it. Here's one that we just did a sticker with for a health system out in Virginia. So if you want to get a slogan out there regarding, Kent County is jumping into this, tackling the opioid epidemic. Now, so a little publicity about where it's coming from. We can do that. Also, there's state money that's coming down for the state opioid response grants money, and also the settlement dollars regarding what the AGs have been working on.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Rick?
How long?
I'm sorry?
How long have you been using this product, or has this product been on the market?
Actually, it was developed in 2011, and it went to market. Actually, 8 months after that, we started with a grant from National Institute of Health to develop this product, and it was validated by Mercer University School of Pharmacy. And I'm happy to share all that information with you.
Commissioner Buxton?
Well, a couple things. I don't think I heard cost, so that's to come later, correct?
Well, I was hoping Rick could give us kind of a...
I don't need that. If we're not making any decisions tonight, we
Not
can
right
have
now.
those down the road. So I
Right.
just want to make sure I heard what I thought I heard, which is I didn't hear anything, which is fine. All right, secondary to that, because this
It
is,
range anywhere from...
I don't mean that
It can range
disrespectfully.
anywhere from...
Go ahead.
No, it can range anywhere from, say, $3 to $3.50. It just depends on the volume.
Sure. Yeah, and then I don't
It
know
can
what
go
the
below
volume,
$3.
I don't know what volume means, meaning, are we trying to get one to anyone that requests one? Are we trying to mail one to anybody who, so those are questions I guess we could have answered down the road. I thought when I reviewed the packet that it spoke directly to a wastewater treatment facility. That was the angle that the packet was taking. Is that true? Or
That's
was-
one of the angles, yes, because people pour it down the sink and the toilets. And it gets to our wastewater treatment plant, and we don't want it going there.
But do we have any evidence or testing that it's been impactful locally?
Rick, do you do testing for the wastewater treatment plants also?
No.
No?
Technically, we don't do a testing.
Okay.
With the people with the water, if you look at it, a lot of filtration systems are used with carbon. So that's basically what we use is carbon to get the medications inside the carbon. So we know the potential that the water streams and leaching into streams and everything is where the medications are coming from. This is going to stop that completely. And I'm more than happy to send you our leach test of the product to show you that it will not leach out into the water system whatsoever.
I just didn't know if we had evidence of that, or if Diana Gold had
I think Jody
presented
was
that
gonna-
as
yeah.
a concern, and if she has or hasn't. I didn't expect it, but I didn't know
Can we
if
ask
you'd-
Diana?
Yeah.
Diana, can you come down? We do any testing at the wastewater treatment plant?
Of course, we do testing at the wastewater treatment plant, but not necessarily for opioids and other drugs. So generally, things that pass through a human, which would end up in human waste, would end up at the wastewater treatment plant. Some of those would degrade and be processed by the treatment process, and other ones are not. So there are hormones, drugs,
Yeah, but
even
you say
Sudafed.
You say pass through human, that's not what this is trying to fix. This is trying to fix people who dump drugs down the drain, which does not pass through human.
So those also would go to the treatment plant and may or may not be treated depending on what it is.
But you do not test for that.
Correct.
What would we need to do to test for that, to see if we have a problem to even consider this?
We'd have to identify what we want to search for and do the test for that specific chemical.
I don't want to spend money on something we don't know that's a problem. What problem are we trying to fix?
So, okay, Ms. Gold, I thought so, and that's fine. We're good on your end, because I think there's value if we understand that there clearly is an issue, and it, based on the things that I read in here, it matters. So if we move away from that back to the scenario of collecting the drugs to dispose of them properly, I thought there's programs out there right now available. Are they only delivery? Is that the problem? You have to discard them by taking them somewhere?
my understanding, you can take them to the police department and they take them up to, and they're incinerated.
Yeah.
But the problem is getting people to take it to the police department so it goes up there.
Yeah, okay.
This
So
is
it's a
where
home
you can-
remedy,
Yeah, this
basically.
is where it's in your own backyard where you can handle it right away and take care of it. And I'm going to give an example. My wife was going to do this a few months ago, and I just happened to catch her. You can't put that down the toilet, hon.
Right.
And so, people don't, they're just going to do what they want to do to get rid of it and not put it in the trash. They're going to put it in the toilet and
Can't you
flush
put
it.
it in the trash?
Well, you're not supposed to put drugs in in the trash either.
I understand that.
So this neutralizes it, so we don't have an issue.
All right, well, I'm not opposed to it.
So I just
would like
wanted
better
to
understand.
make sure that this is why it heightened my accountability too. But if my wife was going to do it, I want to make sure that other people aren't going to do it. And it's not just drugs; it's also chemicals and cleaning agents to neutralize. So there's a whole different gamut other than just that. But
All right.
the thing was to start the discussion and look at this.
I'm not, yeah,
No.
I think it has a lot of merit to it. I just don't understand how it rolls out in the county. And we're not going to decide that tonight anyway, so, okay.
It's more of information to get everybody on board to see how we want to do it, if we're going to do it, and come up with a plan.
All right.
So, and I know, like I said, I have Fred Neal, City Councilman here, who's from the City of Dover, and Mr. Lyons from Public Works from the City of Dover. They're our biggest contract user. Tightly knit community. People are going to get rid of it the easiest, simplest way. And if we have to test to find out if it's getting in our system, I don't have a problem testing it because I'm sure we don't want to spend money after something that's not worth it. But let's face it, people take the easiest way out to do things. If it goes to the trash or it goes in the toilet, we're down the sink with water. So, anybody else? Okay, Rick, I don't see anybody else with questions. If you don't mind, can I ask the city partners, Mr. Neal or Mr. Lyons, you have anything you'd like to see or add? Come on down, please.
Good evening, everyone. Jason Lyons, City of Dover, Department of Water, Wastewater, Director of Water and Wastewater. I don't want to take time from Councilman Neal. This question is probably based solely for Rick. How much medication can go in each bag?
Good question. I didn't jump all into it. The medications are all on each bag. We got different sizes, and from back may go all the way up to 2.5 gallon, but the majority of the medications are left over, the 70% that I talked about, typically around 45 pills. But our product takes pills, liquids, and patches. So they're all listed on the back. Our medium pouch takes 45 pills, 6 ounces of liquid, or 6 patches. And when we talk patches, we're talking like fentanyl patches.
Okay, I had a tough time hearing that. But I thought I heard 45 pills. Is that correct for the medium?
Yes. Just
Okay.
for the medium pouch, then the large pouch would take 90. Our 1 gallon takes up to 1,000 pills.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. I think it's a good plan. Questions raised this evening are probably important about how this is, if it is a problem. But just keep in mind that it's a long-term problem, right? Like it takes a long time for this stuff to leachate through the landfill or through groundwater to get to the drinking water. But just wanted to make that point. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mr. Lyons. Mr. Neal.
Normally, we also say Fred Neal, 3rd District, Dover City Council. So make sure that the record very clearly states who I am. One of which, first off, Jason Lyon is an expert. I'm not an expert in this field. So what I would be looking at is looking to him to say, okay, this works, this is something that we can use and what have you. Then the next thing that I'm going to have to do, just as you're going to have to do, is looking at the cost. Then looking about the distribution, does it go to the police department to carry along so if they run into a situation, they can use it immediately or shortly thereafter? How about EMSs? As somebody goes out to the hospital, and sometimes seniors, I live in a senior community, and they come to the hospital and they're taking a body out. Do we do it then? There's all kinds of things. There are questions that have to be asked in terms of doing it. Do we know that it's a good idea? Yes. If we're having all kinds of problems with climate and what's going to happen, and the UN report saying, hey, we don't have much time to live on this earth, then I think we have to consider all of these things. But I have to consult with Jason in terms of saying, okay, you're my expert. What do you think, how it is? And then we're going to have to go back to City Council because now it becomes a budget item. How are we going to pay for it and the like? Same thing that we share together, because that bill that we get from you that we pass on to our taxpayers is you're cleaning the system, and that counts. But I think it's day 13 for flushing. So we're flushing those old pipes as well as the new pipes that are going in. It's all in consideration. And I think it's great that Alan has brought this to me, Commissioner Angel has brought this to us, so that we can take it under consideration and go from there. And I thank you very much, and I release the floor.
Thank you, Commissioner Neal. And Commissioner Neal just reminded me last week at his HOA meeting, we had a gentleman stand up from his committee that used this product where he came from. And in fact, he keeps it on him all the time. When he goes to his family get-togethers, he always hands it out to the families wherever he's at, because it's so well worth it. So, Jason, I'll give you my packet here so you can have it and get up with you later with the other information. But like I said, this is environmentally something that's safe, something that's doable. I did not know about it's plant-based and dissolves the plastic. That even makes it even more advantageous because everything dissolves in. So, but any other questions for Rick or anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you, Rick, for being on, and I'll be in contact, and with Mr. Lyons and Fred, I'll be in contact with you all too. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Economic Partnership update.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Parkowski, the Exec Director of the Kent Economic Partnership. And it is my pleasure tonight to introduce the new person that has joined our team, Zachary Prebula. And hopefully I said it right, Zach. It might be pretty close. I butcher all the names. But I want him to tell you a little bit about himself and where he's from and what he's been doing and what he's going to do here at the partnership. So go ahead, Zach.
Hello, everyone. Well, the last name is Prebula, so.
I didn't think that bad.
Yeah, pretty common. So a little bit about me. I'm born and raised here in Delaware. I graduated from CR in 2015. I played lacrosse there, and then I continued my education through Deltech, the SEED program, where I continued to play lacrosse. Ran into a couple knee problems that I wasn't able to continue, so I stick to golf now on my free time. After Deltech, I went through Salisbury University, where I got my bachelor's in business economics. Through there, I completed 2 internships, with one with First Shore Savings and Loan, which is a community bank for Salisbury area, and they also have one in Sussex. And I also did business strategy and strategic planning with Tidal Health. Through there, I made a couple connections, and I got in contact with the executive director at Salisbury Wycomico Economic Development, and that's where I was the past 2 years. And more recently, my resume was passed around and got in the hands of Linda, and I ended up here at Kent Economic Partnership, where I'm the business developer.
So tell them about your first 2 days.
So yesterday, got thrown right into the water and had to learn how to swim really fast. So it's been a crazy past 2 days, but it's been already a great experience, and I'm looking forward to meeting everybody and working closely with everybody moving forward. And thank you for having me here.
Yeah, so we're pretty excited that Zach, and he's born and raised right here in Kent County, and is going to do really good things.
So where will he be working?
He's working for the right here in our county building. He's the business developer for Kent Economic Partnership. He took Shannon's place. She had some childcare issues, and yeah. So it's been a little bit of time. First of all, I'm not here to ask for anything. Surprise, surprise. I know you're all going to be very, very happy about that one for tonight. It's just basically an update. And when I looked, I hadn't been here to give you an update on what Kent Economic Partnership's been doing since October 2020. So we're going to go through. I just wanted to give you kind of like an assessment of the county from an economic perspective. So we're going to do that first. We're going to go through the municipalities a little bit. Do I need to point this way? At you? Oh, man. It's not pointing.
There you go.
Let me see if it goes again. It's not.
There you go.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. So anyway, we cover all of Kent County. Sorry, I'm going to go this way, I guess. Just so you know, we cover all of Smyrna and all of Milford. Even though part of Smyrna, I'd love to annex into our county because it has a very large industrial park in it. And we cover all of Milford, even though it's in Sussex. So this is what people think. When they think of Kent County, they think we're agriculture, we're farms, and we are. We are definitely have a very strong agriculture presence. But this is also who we are. We have some of the largest manufacturing firms in the country located right here in our county. So I think that's something that we should also be really, really proud of. We have major industrial sites in the county, and we're going to talk about each one of these. And these are some of the largest ones, from Duck Creek, Garrison Oak, the aviation complex, and Harrington. So we're going to start with Smyrna. The Duck Creek Business Campus, 206 acres. It has already seen some really, really good activity. It's owned by KRM, and there's 28 lots right now. There's a 70, hopefully. Let me see if there is a project, we call it Project Press, that's at the Duck Creek Business Campus, and it's for a 338,000 square foot building on 46 acres. And hopefully they're gonna file with the Smyrna Planning Commission within the next 2 weeks, is what we hear. They're asking for right around 700 to 800 parking spots, and it should be right around 300 to 400 jobs. So that's going to be a really big project coming into the Duck Creek Business Park. Kent Economic Partnership brought that in with a site selector that we had worked with on an Amazon project that ended up going to Seaford, but the site selector didn't forget us and brought this project into us. So,
Linda, is council aware of that? Town council?
I don't know if they're aware of that, but that's a KEP project.
Okay.
This is another KEP project that we brought into the Duck Creek Business Park. This is Procter & Gamble. This site is here, 70,000 square foot building that KRM put up, and Procter & Gamble is going to lease it. Pretty long-term lease for a distribution center, and then there's plans to build an additional 70,000 to the right-hand side of this building. There's also plans for another 130,000 square foot.
Procter & Gamble's at transitioning out of Dover to go here. This is
No,
an expansion
no.
of their-
No, this is additional distribution warehousing space. Procter & Gamble, Kraft Heinz, a lot of our larger manufacturers rent space in Hurlock, Maryland, because we don't have the amount of warehousing space that they need right here in Kent County. So this is going to assist them in some of their warehousing space.
Linda, do we know when they're moving in, P&G?
The lease is signed. I know that one. So they're working on fit out right now, is my understanding.
And is that the building you can see from Route 1?
That's the building you see from Route 1 as you drive by. Yeah, so we're pretty excited about that. And that was, we had worked with Procter & Gamble. They had told us they had warehousing needs. We said, are you aware of the Duck Creek Business Campus? They were not aware of it. Put the two and two together, and there we go. So this is Harris Manufacturing. I forget what it was. Oh, it's the old Metal Masters. This site is in an opportunity zone. It's in a downtown development district. It has everything going for it, except it's in bad repair. It needs millions of dollars, or it needs a tear down. When we brought the site selector in last year, she basically told them either tear it down or don't think about industrial for there. If you're going to leave it up, turn it into some kind of mixed use, residential, apartments. It needs a lot of work to get it where it needs to be. And it's unfortunate because it's one of our only industrial zone sites in an opportunity zone within the county. Clayton has a wonderful railroad that runs through it, but its industrial land is very scarce. They have they have Eagle Group, they have Hanover Foods, Southern States, and then there's land along the rail, but it's actually owned by Norfolk Southern, and then some of it is owned by Lebanon Chemical, and Lebanon Chemical was for sale at one point, and then they pulled it off of the market because they just figured the environmental cleanup would be too steep. So anyway, there isn't a lot that we can do for Clayton in the industrial space, and I should have prefaced that. Industrial is what is heating up at the moment and probably will be for the next, 3 to 5 years. Kenton, it has limited growth. There's only 4.6 acres zoned commercial and only 3 acres zoned industrial. So there's not a whole lot at the present that we can do for Kenton to promote them in the industrial space. Go ahead.
Okay, just industrial.
Industrial. I'm basically, that's what we're focusing on. The Rockport study told us to do manufacturing, small to medium, warehousing, distribution. That's what's
Economically, with that thin line of land that comes down into the northern part of Kent. It's the Rails to Trails program. That's where it is, right there. You see that thin line that goes from the center of the map straight down to the bottom left, about 50 feet wide.
And then what is it?
Rails to Trails.
Oh, Rails to Trails. Oh, that's what you want it to be.
Yeah.
Ah.
And there's land there that was going to be a train station, or could be made into commercial shops or whatever.
Well, rails become really important, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, and we need to preserve every piece of freight rail line that we have within the county. Oh, okay, that's fine then. We don't have to worry about that one. All right, Cheswell, there's no industrial zone land, but for a few parcels in the Capital City Park. And the Capital City Park is a real missed opportunity. That's the industrial park across from Walmart.
Right.
They were small lots. Back in the day, that's what you did in industrial park. You did 2 to 5 acres, And the rail runs right along this industrial park. There could be opportunity in the future to maybe combine lots and go after something larger that might be a rail user. And then right along the rail, Cheswold zoned a large parcel, residential for manufactured homes, where that could have been an industrial space. So there's not a whole lot we can do right now for Cheswold, but there's opportunity for Cheswold in the future if somebody really wants to, take a brush to it and work on it. That's just showing you the different zonings in Cheswold. So, before the regional planning, and I think it came before Levy Court, MVP, which is the former PPG building, they're building an additional 12,000 square foot building behind the plant for mixing their process. And where the woods are to the left, they will be coming back within the next year or two and asking for a 300,000 square foot warehousing distribution building next to that. So there's 50 acres total. They can build on about 25 of it. And then to the right, we should have taken pictures today. We were here today. They've cleared the right woods because with their process, they have a lot of materials that are outside the building that they have to store in a parking lot. So look for good things to come from MVP in the future. Maxim, the former Reichhold, that it says possible sale pending. We were there today on a tour. It did sell. They sold almost all of it. They're using part of it for trailer parking, which doesn't create a lot of jobs. It has great rail potential there. There's 2 spurs that actually come into the property. And there is plans, that building on the left, there is plans to renovate that. So we're hoping they renovate that and we can find them a rail user to fill that space and actually create some jobs there. And then we're going to move on down to the city of Dover. The Garrison Oak Technology Park is one of our only really almost shovel-ready industrial parks in the county right now. It has level and clear lots. Back when this was built, 20 years ago or thought of, there were small lots, and in between, I think everybody has heard me say this before, it has drainage ditches that are in between each lot. The city of Dover, along with Kent County, is getting the engineers to relook at that, see if those drainage ditches can be filled and move the utilities, and hopefully we can combine lots. The other thing that may need to be done, the road is a big U, and the road cuts. The road in there is a big U, and it cuts through the industrial park and takes land. The requests that are coming in for large industrial or manufacturing users are averaging 25 to 40 to 50 acres now. That's the average ask. So one of the other constraints with the Garrison Oak Park is the road network. Doesn't have really good access to Route 1. And this is part of the Dover Freight Study. Hopefully by the number 1 up there, you can see the Garrison Oak Park. The dark blue line is a proposed road that would go alongside of Route 1. That would take you to North Little Creek Road and then to South Little Creek Road and then intersect with Horse Pond Road. So when I made the slide on the bottom right, it says needs to be moved up on the corridor transportation plan in DelDOT. So it was on FY27 for preliminary engineering. It has now been moved up to FY25 for preliminary engineering, and that means they'll start the preliminary hearing July 1, 2024. So we're happy that that's going to happen, and that will really help the East Industrial area over by Horse Pond Road, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, and also Garrison Oak. So then this is the Central Delaware Aviation Complex. Right now we're applying for FY23 earmark through Senator Coons' office for some more planning. We need the second taxiway, this green, I don't know if this, yeah, this green right here, it's not there. This is the runway. There's one taxiway that goes into the Civil Air Terminal, but this is not here yet. And so when planes go in there, but they're only going in there right now for NASCAR, they have to maneuver, turn around, do all kinds of things to get in and out. So the grant that we're asking for is to get the second taxiway, at least the permitting and everything involved in that. And then everybody's heard me talk about the possible expansion behind the Civil Air Terminal area because we are running out of industrial land throughout the county. The joint use agreement is pending. It is finalized, sitting at the Department of Defense. So I know how many times I've said that. I'm not going to give a date on when I think it's going to be done. Just, it's pending. All right, so the East Dover industrial area, that's what I'm calling the area over by the Air Force Base and over by Lafferty Lane, Horse Pond Road. This is what I call the East Dover industrial area because it is industrial space over in east of Dover. We're running out of land unless we do something with the additional land behind the Civil Air Terminal. So this is a success story that people may not even know about. The Sunrock building, which was the old water cooler plant, 220,000 square foot building, is now pretty much 80% leased, and the part that's left is not conducive for an industrial or distribution use. They're going to have to find some other use for it in there. But we now have FedEx Ground that works out of there. We have XPO Logistics, is a very large national company. Canteens in there, and Fireside Partners, another local company. So really pleased that over in the Sunrock building, it's 80% leased. The East Dover industrial area, right now, there are 4 different warehouses, complexes planned for that area off of Lafferty Lane. This is Lafferty, right there. So there is warehousing planned here, 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 and here, which is excellent. We need it. This is a 280,000 square foot warehouse planned on one of those spots. And these have gone through or are going through the City of Dover Planning Commission. There's also a spot, this is right as you go on Bay Road. There's also a spot, this is the storage facility here. These are 3 small parcels, but hopefully we can combine them and find a user over there. And then, let me go back. Just show you one of these. This one over here is Frito-Lay. That's the warehouse that's going in there, distribution center. And we have a possible another user for the balance of the land over here that we're working with them on. This is in the Enterprise Park. There is 22 acres left. It's under contract by an outfit out in New York that wants to build large warehousing in the city of Dover. We're just waiting for them to go through the planning commission and actually get some sites planned. I think they're waiting for a tenant before they do that. But that's really the largest parcel that's left in the Enterprise Park. Camden. We got 2 small parcels along the rail line in Camden, and that's about it. The rest of it's commercial. I mean, for industrial. The rest of it's commercial. Wyoming. This is the new Wyoming Industrial Park that got money from the Sites Readiness Fund. It has rail access, but the developer has decided to put small lots in there. When we had the site selector down, she advised to combine the lots, make them larger along the rail. So we'll see. If we get a user that needs more lots, maybe they'll combine them. Frederica, it needs amenities to support the sports complex. That's really what needs to happen, and we'll try to help them however we can. Milford, They bought a total of 180 acres. It's rated 14 and 15. It's got a pretty good location, and this will give Milford some industrial land to market. They really don't have any available industrial land to market, so that'll be good for them. Felton, there are large parcels along the rail line, but they need infrastructure. There's no services to these parcels. So that's something that we'll work on in the future. The Harrington Industrial Park is moving along. It got $1 million from the Site Readiness Fund last Monday to work on some infrastructure. Right here in the bottom is a multimodal rail terminal that'll be a game changer for the area. Right here, just went to Harrington Planning Commission. There's a 53,000 square foot powder coating building that's going to go up there. Farmington, in the Kent County comp plan, there's 2 areas identified for industrial. They are right here. They're kind of slim parcels, unfortunately, so we haven't had anybody bite on them yet, but we do serve them up when somebody says they need rail and industrial. So that, I just wanted to give you an overview. That's kind of the county from municipality to municipality and what we have to work with going on. Here's some of our wins. I'll go through them quickly. I think you all know them. Independent Metal Strap back off of Horse Pond Road. I should have brought they make clips for the government. MVP Shoreline, you've seen that. That's the old PPG building. USA Fulfillment, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this project and this project I did with your assistant county administrator. We were partners in crime on those couple projects together. So NKS, solidified. We were working on getting their NKS building in Milford filled. Had a deal. They pulled out of that deal, so now we're still looking for a site for a locally grown company. Avalon, the Dover Post building in Dover, brought 2 businesses in there, and Dover Post remains a client. The big win is Delmarva Corrugated Packaging. They needed 25 to 30 acres, zoned industrial. They wanted it in an opportunity zone, and they needed rail. So they're the kind of requests that you get and that you need. So they're doing really well. Hopefully they'll do a groundbreaking or ribbon cutting or something. Still, our number 1 tool is the website. People go on, site selectors are on the website all the time and then make the call or the inquiry. They've done their homework before they even contact us. We're doing some regional and national advertising. We did it last year. It worked. It brought us developers. It brought us site selectors. It brought us companies. So one of our taglines is room to grow, and then the other one is check all the boxes. That's for the box plant that we did this year. So these are in trade publications, real estate journals, business journals, Philly and Baltimore, and site selector magazines. This is probably the most value we bring to our partners and the brokers and business owners that own land or building. We send out leads. When we get an inquiry in, we send out a lead. We gather all the information. We have pretty sophisticated technology platforms that compile reports. We send that out to the customer or the potential client. And so the municipal partners and everybody kind of knows that the inquiries are coming in because we did go to the conferences, we do the trade shows, and we do the advertising. The Kent County Strategic Fund, this is the amount of money that you have given to the KEP or KEP is requested out of the Strategic Fund, and I just want to say thank you, and thank you again for always being committed to making Kent County a great place for businesses to land. These are the 2 companies that have the tax abatement that we requested from KEP. And I just wanted to show you, these are some of our located projects. 72% of them were in the manufacturing. And then it was distribution, logistics, and then medical. Our current projects right now, you can see a large portion of the current projects, that means projects that are in the works. We are working with the company to find a site or get him here, is manufacturing. And then the, distribution, agriculture or some kind of agricultural process, and then other. The future, just want to talk a little bit about the future and some of the things that we're working on for the future, because as you can see, Kent County's doing well. We need more land, zoned industrial, Duck Creek Business Campus. They're going to apply for a site readiness fund. They need a water tower. They need transportation money for their entrance off of Paddock Road. And so hopefully they'll apply next July and get a site readiness fund grant. Garrison Oak needs to be redesigned, may need some site work there. Hopefully we can apply, and we thank the state for the site readiness fund. That's going to be a big game changer for some of these areas. Central Delaware Aviation Complex needs a second entryway. I talked about that one. Harrington Industrial Park got the first $1 million, but that's not going to bring the infrastructure in. It's going to need more money to actually get it up to where it needs to be marketable. And then we had Rockport do kind of like Rockport 2.0. Surprisingly or unsurprisingly, our targeted industry stayed the same. But what we had them do this time was look at workforce, for the targeted industries, we have the workforce available, and look at the targeted industries for Smyrna, Dover, and Milford. And those results are in, and I can do a whole separate slide on that. So Milford and Smyrna and Dover have the results. And this is just an example. We also got drive time maps. And these are really important because we're working with a local company right now that is having issues recruiting. And when we laid the drive time maps over the types of skills and jobs that they were recruiting for, we said, you need to go to Philadelphia. You need to start advertising in the Philadelphia area on down, that's where the majority of those types of workers are located. So the data that we've received from Rockport this time is really drilled down. We can manipulate it and get good information, and we just used it the other day for a large manufacturer. The East-West truck study is in the works. Hopefully that'll be done by the summer. The Kent County MPO has taken that over. They've been a great partner with us.
Before you move on from that, does the truck study include the potential for a truck stop?
The truck study does not. It talks about what road improvements need to be. So the truck study we were on, that the Will Mapco did, that one does the truck stop. But I have that info for our project. And then the Dover Freight Study, this is the connector road. This is probably the most important thing, and it's been on Dover's high priority for many, many, many years. Grateful to say it's going to FY25 for planning. The rail corridor study, this one you're going to hear a lot about in the future. And if I kind of preach rail because that's what a lot of the users are asking for, large users, large job producers. And the purpose of the study is like identify, and then hopefully we can educate planning commissions about the uses, and also maybe get some of the comp plans amended so that rail becomes important. And most of the comp plans you'll see when we roll out this study, it's still in draft form. Most of the comp plans don't even mention rail. And even though when there is rail in their municipality. So hopefully that's going to be an education process, and we'll go through area by area and try to figure out how we can either be aware of it, and so that some of the land doesn't turn into housing developments or go into ag preservation, so that we have these available parcels for the future. This is just an example of one of the tiles for the rail study, and it'll give us each parcel number by a grouping, and all kinds of information as far as the utilities, where they are near, what utilities are near there, whether it's in the Kent County growth zone. And so we're really looking forward to that becoming finalized, and then there will be presentations made to the Regional Planning Commission, hopefully to Levy Court, and also the municipality, especially where there's large amount of parcels still left. We want to target those municipalities first so that we can get something maybe on the books or amended. That's it. That's it. I'm happy to answer any questions. Sorry if I ran long.
Mr. Sweeney.
So is KP involved in our job zones in Little Heaven and Frederica?
KP?
You guys?
Oh, KP involved with the job?
The job creation zones, oh, sorry. With the job creation zones? The two areas that we identified in Frederica and Little Heaven?
Are we involved with Little Heaven's master plan? Is that his question? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were involved with Little Heaven's master plan.
I mean, is that something that we need to develop further? Does the county need to purchase land there and start to develop it with entrances off Route 1, making sure infrastructure is there to get it shovel-ready for any businesses that want to move in?
Well, I don't think that at the present that there is any hurry on Little Heaven. I think pre-COVID, my answer to your question would have been yes, because what was planned there was like corporate campus, office, light industrial, and that's not a need at present. But I do think in the future, yes, should we get the infrastructure there? Yes, and should we get the TIDs or whatever has to happen with DelDOT in place? Yes. Like those kind of things should happen, but I don't think we should be in a hurry. I think there's more opportunity in the Central Delaware Aviation Complex area right now because there's already services adjacent to there with the city of Dover. I think that could manifest itself a lot quicker.
So is anybody championing getting those things that we can do done before at those two areas?
Yeah, we should. And Mike, I don't know if you want to talk about the master plan, but
DelDOT is we've entered agreements to establish the transportation improvement districts for both of those master plan areas, and they are actively working. And my understanding is they're more actively working right now on the South Frederica area to complete the TID, the ultimate improvement plan and then to be able to be in a position to create the transportation plan that will enable developers to, when they come in, to just pay into the plan development and move forward, as opposed to the traditional doing individual traffic impact studies and all that. So my understanding is that project is a little bit in the lead, followed by work that Century Engineering and DelDOT are doing in the Little Heaven area. So there is still a fair amount of that work going on that is foundational at this point.
Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Hall.
Yeah, I wanted to just say that the report analysis 1.0, I mean, it's nice, it's great seeing, this becoming reality, because obviously we're attracting all the right industries and businesses into the area, and it works out. And I know that part of that was there were some work groups set up, one for quality of life and the other for education. Could you get me any of the work products from that or any of the outcomes from that? Because I'm just like,
yeah, and Shelley Checker from the Greater Kent Committee took the workforce committee, and that's been meeting statewide, basically. They're using Kent County pretty much as a model for that in the workforce area. And then she also took quality of life and they created that Live Central campaign, and Laura served on that Quality of Life Committee. So I can get you in touch with Shelley so she can get you an update on that, but that was all part of Rockport, and you're spot on, Jeff. Rockport gave us the blueprint. We've followed what they've said, and it's worked.
This is good.
It's worked, so the data works. We're really happy about that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Commissioner Buckman?
Houston and little rail spot there didn't
I haven't gotten back to that, but I will get back. It's Paris Foods, I think that's the one, right?
Yeah, I was curious, as it is along the rail, I believe it's industrial.
Yeah, and I
it's
will.
Underutilized, so I didn't know if it was.
I will get on that one, and
Rockport,
find out what we can do with it.
right, and one was developed back in like '06, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one was dormant for quite a while until somebody sitting at this table decided to put a charge in things, and I want to commend you for that, along with the other folks that joined you. Right, so well done. 1 and 2, yeah.
Thank you.
I have one quick question for you. Last time I was in Virginia, they were talking about expanding a new bridge where Maryland and Virginia is at its closest port in the southern portion of the two states. That if that goes through, it would be a direct path to southern Delaware, and it's cut about an hour and a half off the going up and around. Has that been proposed, or have you heard anything, a development for that that's coming through yet?
I haven't heard anything, but I can ask like the MPO if they've heard anything, because they would probably hear about it before I would. But that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always reach out to the commissioners in the district.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was visiting where I was at before I moved back here, the gentleman was mentioning that discussion. He no longer a commissioner. So I just wanted to see if that was part of, because if that's not, that's going to be an eye-opening bonanza if it comes that way, because people don't have to go all the way north and go south again.
Right, exactly.
And they don't have to go down the main route, the big and long 15-mile bridge on the eastern coast that will cut across.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's great.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Masson.
I'm excited to hear that there is something going on with the Duck Creek Business Park, because I was on the hook for about $2 million to put the infrastructure in place up there. So to see it progressing, I'm very pleased with it. Great job, Linda.
Well, no, thank you and the council at the time that had the vision to put the infrastructure in. And that goes to Jody's question. Should we be putting infrastructure in to some of these places now? Because 5 years from now, we won't have that space, or it might change and be into some other kind of use. So, thank you, Joanne, and the council members.
7 years ago? And here it is now coming to fruition. So it's
Yeah.
exciting for me, because it was almost a $2 million investment we made.
And these projects I've been working on some of these projects, they take 3 to 4 years. They're not, you don't get a call one day and then the company's, breaking ground next week.
And that's quite an education for people, because they think
yes.
they signed and they're going to start digging tomorrow, and that's not how it works.
Mm-mm.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you for all.
Nice meeting everybody as well.
Thank you for all your support all the time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, just a point of clarification. My son's baseball game did not get rained out. And I was sitting in the yard as I get a phone call at 5 minutes before the game starts. So I busted tail over there, and that's why I look the way I do. I made the game, left when the game was over, and made it here.
Good for you, sir.
You could have at least worn a bow tie.
Next time.
I'll buy you one.
Mr. Coelho, health insurance fathom rates and costs. And as he's making his way down, Commissioner Neal and Mr. Lyons, that's it really for us. That I don't see anything else on here, so I don't want to hold you up because I know your time's precious
Worth
too.
staying for this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Take care. Take care.
Very nice.
What kind of exciting news do you have for us?
It's cheaper and lower.
Yes. So commissioners, you may recall from one of the budget meetings in March, the DVHT, which is our health insurer, using the Aetna provider network, had given us a preliminary indication that the premium was going to go up between 2 and 3%. We got the results in, and the premium increased by 1.98%. So very, very happy about that very low increase. And when we applied that same percentage to the HRA as well as the premium, it just very moderately increased the contribution, the cost share that employees would need to pay. So for instance, for employees who just cover themselves, the monthly premium would only go up $1.74 a month. So it really has an impact. Over on the employee, it did go up about $10, but it's 2% and it's $500 a month, so that would make sense. We have been tracking our HRA component. The county, as you know, self-insures the first $5,000 of claims, $10,000 for family. And that's been tracking about $800,000. The past couple of years has been a little less, I think, because of COVID and people may be postponing their procedures. So we'll see what it does for the coming year. We did estimate about an $800,000 cost for the county. And that was factored into the premium increase. We applied the 2% to that as well. And in 2 weeks, hopefully I'll be back before you with the life insurance, the long-term disability, and the dental responses we get to an RFP. But I think the health one might be an easy decision for you this year.
Good. Mr. Buckton.
So tonight you're demonstrating this, and then there's a show of hands for support maintaining the status quo. Right.
Yes, at the budget meeting, commissioners indicated that that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah, regrettably, I wasn't able to attend that night, but I'm fairly consistent. This is the time that I don't enjoy. It wasn't that long ago that the employees paid $0. Then it was a set fee of maybe $60 a month. We were able to move it to a percentage because the percentage allowed for the rate to fluctuate or rise and fall based on whatever the costs associated with be. What am I getting at? I continue to believe that we need to head in that direction where we continue to balance so that there's a fairness between the county employee and the taxpayer who pays the freight. And this year would be the best time to do so. Remind you, I voted in favor of utilizing the pay studies that reset the pay scale, that reset the step increases and all those things. I have not advocated for any kind of cheapening. I have stated that we need to reset both the pay side and the benefit side. We continue to ignore the benefit side. I don't expect to get support, but it is why I will not be in favor of moving forward on this one, unless there's a consideration to raise the percentage incrementally. How about 8%? Is there any support for something like that? All right, move on.
Any other questions? Move it forward to the business meeting? 6 up?
Is it consent or not?
No, it's not going to be consent.
Under new business.
On new business, yes.
Okay, thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Substance use disorders and reassessment. Mr. Pettimaj.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet was a memo with an attachment that included a letter that we received some time ago from County Executive Matt Meyer from Newcastle County. And attached to his letter was a work program that they've embarked upon. Newcastle County last year commissioned a study of substance use disorders, not only in Newcastle County, but in the entire state. They put a proposal out for RFP, they got responses, and they were utilizing the CARES Act funds that they had received, which was fairly robust money prior to ARPA, to fund that. But then Executive Myers extended an invitation to Kent and Sussex counties to join in the total cost. And at a relatively lesser cost than what Newcastle is shouldering. The total project is over $440,000. And Matt Myers has requested a contribution of $75,000 from each county, Kent and Sussex. And the purpose of the study is to position the counties with good information relative to the problem areas in the state and in our counties with respect to opioid addiction and other drug and substance use issues, as well as the services that are provided or that are lacking in the communities to address the issue, and really with the intent of preparing us for the likely windfalls that are coming to the state from opioid litigation. Last year, the state of Delaware, also to prepare for that opioid settlement money, created a commission to help steer the funding so that it goes toward the problem and doesn't get usurped for other purposes that aren't really related to addiction. So I think it's all really good material. Now, Sussex County, a few weeks ago, on March 22nd, voted to appropriate $75,000 toward the effort, meeting the request from Mr. Meyer, utilizing ARPA funds. And I prepared a motion here for you if Levy Court was interested in doing the same. The motion is there. I also shared this information with our consultant, with the proposal, and there were some questions raised. With respect to procedure, compliance with the federal requirements for ARPA funds, because that's what we would be using. And there may be some, they're recommending some additional work be done on our part, which we would need help with, because essentially what they're suggesting, that there were some elements that Newcastle County did not have to follow when they used CARES Act funds. There were certain exceptions that were and allowances under CARES Act that aren't there for ARPA funds. And so they're suggesting, our consultant is that we, if we're going to use ARPA funding for our contribution, that we provide some documentation, create some documentation on our own that would explain how we got involved with this in Newcastle County's procurement process, as well as developing some, and this is the part we would really need help with, some cost analysis that demonstrates that the costs that we're being asked to contribute are fair and consistent with what the market would expect. And so I don't know if Gina is on yet or not, but she's going to be on in a minute or two. And I asked her if she would want to address this issue with the commissioners. Gina, are you on?
I am.
Okay, Gina Beinfeld is our consultant, primary point of contact with Tetra Tech, our project manager. And Gina, did I kind of characterize that fairly with respect to what we might need to do if we're going to use ARPA funding?
Yeah, you did. You did a great job. Essentially, kind of creating a cost analysis to make sure that the costs of the study are reasonable. And you can do this from any manner of ways of researching, kind of starting with local resources to help you identify other kinds of firms that have done similar kinds of studies and analyses, and seeing what the costs of those were. Sometimes you can find other RFPs have been answered and used the results, on a sort of government-to-government basis. It's public information. Those are the things that you would simply want to take a look at to support the decision.
I'll wait for Jeff. I want to hear Jeff first. Mr. Hall? Mr. Hall?
You speak in the microphone, please. Yeah.
So Newcastle County has already done due diligence and issued an RFP, and we are merely piggybacking off of their due diligence, but now we're being cautioned to do an additional analysis that may result in us having to go as the sole county with a different provider to provide the same service. I'm pretty sure it would cost us more than $75,000 to bring on a consultant just for us. But so I'm just curious why there's any risk in piggybacking off of Newcastle County's financial analysis and bidding and RFP process and down selecting to this company. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's a great question. You asked it because it tells me I have not been clear. The why to do the research is about the funding source that would be used. If Newcastle County intended to use their CARES Act funding, certain requirements around bidding were relaxed under those funds. The American Rescue Plan Act, which is the source that you're considering supporting from Kent County with your 75K, does not have those requirements relaxed. So any funds that you're going to provide to support an endeavor that went through a procurement process has got to adhere to the funding sources process, the rules around that, and they're different for ARPA. But I'm not suggesting that there would be another consulting firm that would do the services. This is really about just a kind of a check around the cost proposal of the firm that was hired. I know it's a little posthumous. The rules of procurement under ARPA, and these rules do get widely used under other disaster recovery funding, requires a cost estimate of that the cost of the RFP, consultants that submit proposals are reasonable to the market. That's really what this exercise is about. You're kind of doing this to support your decision because it's coming from this other source of funding. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. That helps. That does answer my question.
Commissioner Buckman?
The $10 million that we set aside, are we free and unencumbered if we use that?
Ask her.
Did you hear that question? I asked him on.
I did.
Yeah. Your thoughts?
It's not free. It just has some different uses, eligible uses. $2 million that you set aside as sort of standard revenue loss allowance that the county can use for government services, unfortunately, does not exempt procurement around the use of those funds. So, good try, but doesn't get us there in terms of the procurement.
The $10 million that we set aside is strictly for governmental loss? We'll never use that.
Well, it's, Gina, do you want to address it? Or, well, as I understand it, it can be used for any government service that we normally spend money on.
So paramedics.
Yes.
We could spend $10 million on paramedics.
Right. Parks and Rec.
Never mind. Let's move on.
Be nice to be able to hire extra paramedics.
Next, The only other one, then the comment that I have is a little different. Well, two problems. And again, in fairness to me, I get to see this now, right? So I don't have the question. I haven't asked it in leadership. My concern is a $500,000 study that produces what? Something that goes on a shelf or produces an action plan with specifics. And I don't know if I didn't read that in there. I looked for some stuff, but I didn't see that. And that's a big number. $500,000 is a big number for a statewide study in Delaware. In fact, 75,000 actually in the county, based on some of the studies we've done, is a pretty good sized study, isn't it? In fairness, if we were looking at substance abuse in the county, that's not an outlandish number, I don't think, is it?
Well, it depends on the scope of work, but, Newcastle County, as I understand it, put this out,
Yeah.
advertised it, went through a competitive process, and this is the firm that they selected. So we haven't been privy to all the materials that were submitted or their proposals or the costs, but they picked one. I think they.
So they went through a bid process.
They went through a process,
and all
a
that.
selection process.
Right. So, the only question I have is, do you know about the, other than just crunching numbers and data, what would, if that's all you get and then you determine what to do with it, is that the expected outcome?
Yes.
Is that what we're looking at? I'm not saying it's bad or good, I'm saying that's what we got, right?
Isn't this tied in some way to the opioid settlement funds that are coming into the state?
I believe that's the intent of having this prepared in anticipation of that and enabling the counties to help direct the use of the funds or to exert some influence over that process. But Gina, the information we did receive from Newcastle County indicated, they went through a public, I just want to be clear, they went through a public offering, but my understanding is from the response we got today is they only had one submittal. Is that right? One respondent.
Yes, that's what I understood, and that was contract.
So we're not debating whether or not we have to have the extra legwork. We're just here to ask, do we want to do the 75, right? The legwork is what it is.
Right, and it's spelled out in their scope of work there.
I'm talking about what was just described tonight. The extra stuff is what it is. You're not asking us whether we want to do that. It is what it is.
Well, I'm prior to today, I thought we were going to enact on this motion, but and kind of do what Sussex County has done. Okay. I think the advice we're getting now is that slow the train down. There's some additional pieces you need to verify before you do this. One is, what I'm hearing Gina tell us is that we need to verify or do some work, some due diligence to indicate that this price that they're asking us to share in is fair. I would not want to cut the check and then decide and then find out what is not fair.
Right.
Am I, Gina, I don't want to be putting words in your mouth or Tetra Tech's mouth, but am I capturing your message?
It's your choice. The commitment is really there, and the interest is really there to commit to the funds. It's your choice. The legwork can be done before that, or it can be done immediately following.
I couldn't hear her. Couldn't hear you, Gina.
Oh, I'm sorry. The legwork can be done before, or it can be done following. It is your prerogative to go forward with the 75K commitment tonight, or to follow the beat. Did that come through okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much time do we have? Do we have to do this tonight, or do we want to think about it, or?
I think didn't they pay for it, and we're reimbursing them?
All we're doing is
I believe the study has begun or is about to begin. So, and apparently Newcastle County has signed a contract, and they're doing it with or without us. But
Using CARES money that they receive from the federal government. Not like they, you know, yeah, they didn't take a huge leap of faith on this one. But that's separate from what we're being asked. So in essence, we could express our desire to participate. However, Newcastle County, we just need to dot a few i's and cross a few t's before we can commit. So if you give us enough leeway, we'll do that. Is that?
I think that's fair.
That's fair, right? Show support as long as it passes the test.
Yeah.
All right.
And Sussex has already signed on to this?
Yes.
Yes.
Approved it.
So we're gonna look like the
Well,
last man out again, huh?
They didn't hire Tetcher, buddy.
Well-
You're paying this lady. She's an expert, and
I
that.
understand, but just to say this, the HMA association that they picked for the experts, the cost is all laid out on the back, what it's going for. So, I mean, I don't know how that's gonna change.
We're paying good money for advice that we ought to take.
75,000 is minuscule compared to what they have to pay. If you look at this, most of us, I mean, it's gonna take a lot of money and time.
Well, we're not saying we're not gonna pay that. What we're saying is, we just need to get some clarifications on a couple of things, and then we'll proceed. So,
Well, once again, I think the 75,000 could come out of the 10 million too, so, based on what we've heard in the past too. So it's getting a little more confusing again as we go along. Just saying, Jana.
All right, that's why we're here. Regardless of what bucket it comes up, so the homework should be done. Yeah, out of the 10 million, still doing the research that's needed.
Mark, it's really hard to hear her. I'm not sure what the problem is, but Gina, can you
Sorry,
restate
guys.
that?
I'll project a little bit more. Yes, regardless of what bucket comes out of, whether the 10 million or any other eligible use under the SLFRF, the homework still needs to be done.
And who does that homework? Because I know nothing
We'll help.
about this subject.
We'll help you. No worries.
Okay.
So we're on board. We just got to dot some i's and cross some t's.
Okay, so we're just gonna pass this over until we get the answers?
Yeah, I would suggest, Commissioner, that we hold this in abeyance until we get that homework done. And then we will, once we do, and we're comfortable with, we'll bring it back under new business for an action.
Okay.
Good idea.
We don't need a consensus for that, right?
Well, yeah, if you consent to what I just said, that'd be great.
Okay. Consensus of what Mike said?
yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Gene.
Next.
Next one, Mr. Petitpage.
Okay. Yes, item 5 is American Rescue Plan Act development follow-up. We had a workshop in March with the commissioners, and Gina and her team from Tetra Tech led a good discussion, good overview of allowances and limitations of ARPA. And during that meeting, we collected a lot of the thoughts that were being discussed around the table. We also have received over the course of time, since the announcement of the American Rescue Plan Act, requests from various entities in the community, and we have a compendium of letters of requests, and we've provided that information to Tetra Tech as well. And so since that workshop, Gina and her team have essentially sifted the information together and developed some broader categorical areas of potential spending that came from this interaction with Levy Court and from the community and the information we've received. And so in the material that was sent to you over the weekend, there are 11 areas of potential spending. And underneath those, you'll see those in like a bold, they're numbered 1 through 11, and there's some sub-bullets. And those sub-bullets are illustrative items that have either come in or you all have offered at the table that would fall under that category. And so what we're requesting, and I'm going to stop in a second, turn it over to Gina. She prepared this table that we would like for you to do some prioritization and ranking. And Gina, if you would take it from there, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll put it up so you can see all that wonderful text. Is that?
Okay, Gina, can you share now?
Is this on? Can you hear me now?
There we go. Can you see the form?
Yes, we can.
Yep, we can see your form. And if you can stay a little bit close to your microphone, that would be very helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry. I will use my performance voice. And so thanks, everyone. Mike, that was a terrific introduction. What we like to do is a way to kind of move forward, advance thinking and prioritization around what we heard at the March 9th workshop, and as well what the county has heard over months from the community to try and help you, the commissioners, sort through and prioritize projects, kind of focused areas, not specific projects. So a couple of high comments here, which is why this big paragraph is up there on the screen. The exercise is around the remaining funds that have not yet been committed. And just to refresh, of course, you had a commitment of $5 million towards the Small Business and Hospitality Grant Program, $1.27 million towards the Paris Villa London Village Sewer Project, and significant commitment to the volunteer fire and ambulance services that we're putting an approximate number of $2.8 million towards. And then the county's $10 million standard revenue loss allowance, which is really about providing regular county government services, although that may be able to be used for some of the items that we're going to talk about in a sec. So of that $35 million, it's the remainder after the $5 million, 1.2, and 2.8, roughly speaking. What we would you to do is to prioritize 5 subject areas of the 11 on the form, and using the left-hand column, check ones that are priorities for you. And of those priorities here, 4 or 5, and of the ones you check, rank each one. So you can see here how it works. You can change, oh gosh, I really don't want this to be 5. I want that to be, so you just go back, there's a blank line in each one. If you want to use this form, you can always just print it out and, fill it out paper and send it into Mike. Mike will be watching his email like a hawk, anxiously awaiting. We'd ask you to do this by midday on Thursday of this week, because our intention is to be able to come back to you at the next court meeting to provide some recommendations, the results of the tally, and recommendations on next steps. So just to take subject areas, again, there are bullet points here. They reflect comments that have been made, or they reflect letters from the community, from various entities, but they're not intended to be only items under that subject area. Look, as you are advertising, look towards the subject area globally and bullet points underneath a couple of examples, but not the entire representation of the subject area.
Gina.
So in this first one,
Gina, there's a Commissioner Sweeney has a question.
So Gina, should we disregard?
I apologize, you're very-
Do we disregard the $10 million that we're pulling out? Because under number one, the $10 million could go toward our own emergency operations, but the other, whatever it is, 28 million or whatever's left, 22 million, could be the additional volunteer fire company. So that one bullet item could be out of either buckets or both buckets.
The exercise right now is not really intended for you to have to think very intensively about dollars. The comments up here top are really just a reminder, where you are, kind of in order of magnitude of dollars left. But as you're prioritizing, it's not as though you have to think about, okay, well, emergency services, we could put $1 million, and substance abuse and mental health, we could put it in, the negative economic impacts from COVID-19. You don't have to do that. Simply think about the subject areas that you think are the highest priorities, and then rank them from 1 to 5, with 1 being the highest. I'm not sure I said that. 1 being the highest and 5 being the lowest. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So in relation to the second, substance abuse and mental health, these are two disciplines, two subject areas that can go hand in hand or have some relation. So we group them here together. Some comments that have been received, been interest in facility, a treatment facility, of course, the needs assessment here, mental health services, simply the services around those, job skills, et cetera. I apologize. I want to go right back up to number 1, because I wanted to make a point here. So the volunteer fire and ambulance, there's particular wording here around, additional volunteer fire and ambulance general support. Why phrase that way is because there already is a commitment. You, the commissioners, with the 18 volunteer fire services and 1 volunteer ambulance service, you had meetings and volleys of letters expressing lost revenue and increased costs that I think everyone is committed to. So this would be in addition, generally emergency services, and in addition to what would be provided to under initiative. So just want to make that point. Homelessness and food banks, again, 2 areas that often go together. Here, there's been expression of interest around the Milford facility, Dover Interfaith Mission Practice housing, as well as services, and you'll see this last bullet duplicated in a couple of places. Many places that deal with lots of people and interaction with the public often have additional need for protective equipment and other safety supplies and such. Fourth area is workforce housing. We did hear this expressed for affordable housing development. Seems as though a considerable need over time. Extensively expressed has been interest in senior services, senior centers, around group home or center improvements, supporting of services such as the medical dental clinic, housing for seniors, and then very popular programs such as on wheels and protective equipment again there. So these are some, again, bullet items that we've heard, but you can think globally about this area. Other civic organizations, just many nonprofits throughout the county have experienced revenue loss and increased expenses as a result of not being able to congregate and use their facilities or for other reasons. So that's what this item is around, those civic organizations that serve county employees. You know, there's been a request from the employees for compensation or reimbursement around related absences for sick time, medical, family leave, and such. And there's also been an expression around the essential workers and providing some premium pay for those folks that, you know, were there throughout, whether it's the custodial or the wastewater, public staff, and such. Tourism, there already has been the significant commitment to the Tourism Corporation in the form of the hospitality grant. But this is another aspect of tourism, the museums and places that draw significant populations that have experienced considerable financial challenges as a result of canceled events and inability to be open.
Gina?
Childcare and...
Gina?
Sorry, is your question?
Excuse
Yeah.
me, I don't mean to cut you off purposely, but I think we get it for what you're trying to put on here. It's just that the in between each one of these, are we supposed to pick a bullet within that too, or just that's all the scope within that time frame, or that, like senior services, and it has five or six different things? So, okay.
Now, you don't have to pick a bullet.
Okay, that's the only thing I had different I wanted to ask. I think we get it though, where you're going with what five we're supposed to pick. So, Commissioner Buxton?
My concern is that I want to pick a bullet.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't want to pick a category. I want to pick that bullet inside of that category. And that's going to be my challenge in just simply identifying five. In fact, I went through and did a few. I don't know how you fix that in this study. I don't mind doing, not this study, this sort of survey, whatever. I don't mind participating in this. I just don't want it to then end up excluding something. Tourism's an example. I don't want to check the box, but I certainly don't want to leave D Turf Sports Complex out. So I want to hit D Turf Sports Complex and maybe not check the others. I don't know.
That's my thought too.
When I go up to section 1 with emergency services, we've talked about it quite a bit. I don't know how I check it because I think it should come off. It's already
Out of the 10 million.
It's already agreed upon. I think that we're going to do that one in the 10 million. I think the one down here with employees and others potentially could already be consumed. So I'll participate, and I want to, because I think that's part of how you gain traction. I just don't want this to end up bringing back something that's now being worked that excluded things unintentionally. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes. Commissioner Hall?
Well, when I looked at this, because I don't think this is a comprehensive sub-bullet list, so I think, given that we're 7 of us trying, I mean, Sussex County's done, Newcastle County's done, and we're still sitting here reviewing paperwork. So I thought that this was to kind of get us narrowed down into some general areas that from the, so that if every one of us, every single one of us agreed that tourism was the answer, then we could then talk about how to focus it from that point into specific projects. But if none of us thought, or just one of us thought workforce housing was important, we can move on. And so it's a kind of like a funnel to get us down into what's 5 things that we can all agree are important or live with. So I don't know. I thought it was a worthwhile effort. I mean, if we're going to cherry pick and get 7 people to all cherry pick the same things.
I don't consider it, and I appreciate it. But again, what you're saying is you're funneling down categories into 5. And that's going to leave a lot of meat on the bone, a lot of things off the table, and that's what I disagree with, how we get there. I don't disagree we got to fish cut bait, it's time, but there's a different way. Maybe we don't need 11, I'll call them buckets, using Mike's terminology. Maybe we need to consolidate 11 into 5 and then decide what goes in those 5, I don't know. But I jumped ahead, I don't know who's next.
So number 1, number 7, and number 11 are all coming out of the $10 million, right? Could.
Possibly.
Right.
Yeah, but again, what I think Commissioner Hall said it very well. What we're trying to do now is it's not eliminating any of these categories per se. What are the top 5 from 7 people? You're all not going to pick the same top 5, I guarantee it. But we're going to look at the top 5 of each one of you and then say, okay, and we're going to assign points like if you pick a number 1, Glenn, you say senior services is number 1 to me, that's worth 5 points. Jeff's number 1 might be something else, like homelessness or food bank. But then we're going to aggregate the scores, and we're going to come back to you next week. We're hoping to do it this week so we can get back next week and say, okay, here's the ranking. This category got the most points, followed by this one, by this one, by this one, by this one. These others, yeah, they got a few points, but they aren't in the top 5 right now. Doesn't mean they go away totally,
Right.
but it gives us something to focus on to get started.
Right, well, that sounds good, but I agree with Buxton. I'd rather be more specific than general. I'm sorry, some of these I'm far more concerned about than others. And like in the list, there's some things that I consider important. And if let's say emergency operations, if I colored in that little circle, all right, then I have to ask, what does the underline mean under the category of top 5? Do you see what I mean? You don't.
Don't either.
Like I did.
There's like 30 sub-bullets on here. So if we can't agree on 5 general topics, we are never going to agree on 30 subtopics.
I don't think we have to agree on 5.
No, you want to pick.
We're gonna
We're
rank them,
asking each
right.
one of you individually to pick the top 5 and rank them in 1 through 5. That'll give us information to say, okay, here are the ones that scored in the top 5. And those bulleted points, again, those are illustrative of the types of things we've heard about. Doesn't mean you have to agree with every single one of them. It doesn't. It's a category.
Well, how would you
support
differentiate?
senior services, yes or no? You might not support one, like you might not want to do one of them in there, but you like the idea of senior services.
Okay.
That's the idea here. Those were just, the bulleted list came from either points that were made at this table a couple weeks ago or letters that we received on your behalf from people in the community saying we want money.
Okay. So then how do we go about deciding, let's say on emergency services, I'll use this first. I might be more concerned about one than the other, and I don't know, that'll be your problem, I guess. Just tallying this all together, I don't think the bullets should be there. They don't help.
Then don't look
I
at
looked
the,
at that
then
and I
don't
thought,
look at
I
the
need-
bullets.
Huh?
Then don't look at the bullets. Just look at the top category.
Title.
I can ignore them. All right.
Just forget those bullets are there and just take a look at each category and what is important to you and rank them.
But I like bullets.
Well, I do too, but not tonight.
All right, I'll follow your advice. And I
Well, no,
won't
I
even
mean,
have
I-
to use whiteout.
But I mean, it's easier if you just follow the
Being
header.
done by 9 p.m.
Whatever. Give everybody something and let's go home.
Thanks, Joanne.
If I may offer as well, if I may offer as well, if you do like the bullets and the bullets are just so compelling, check the subject area that has the bullets that you want. You can view the subject area if you really want substance abuse or mental health services. Really couldn't care so much about the other bullet items. Probably the reverse, but you check that one as a priority, and then you rate it based on your interpretation of the strength and the importance of the bullet that matters to you. That could be a way to go.
Let's get it over with.
Okay.
No, wait a minute. Yes, what you said was very useful, very helpful. We're getting ready to spend millions of dollars. We've waited this long to do it, which I didn't agree with. That's not relevant. We're getting ready to make some decisions. What you just stated was useful. Pick your top 5 and then identify within that if there's one that just stood out, because I'm getting ready to rank 1 or 2 of these number 1 only because of one bullet that's in there. So that should matter. That should be a part of the process. I don't want to give the false pretense that I like all 6. I know we've already covered that, but identifying a bullet there helps. So I appreciate you, Gina. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I think that the exercise is for yourself in being able to make a check mark next to a subject area, and then rank based on your bullet. If you do fill it out and you do circle something that is your particular priority, if you're not using the electronic form, we'll obviously have to take into consideration and how, think about the subject area. But at least, we'll begin to advance the prioritization. We'll begin to see what the projects are across the commissioners and focus areas. And hopefully there are some commonalities. I would call attention to the emergency services because that one does have a little bit of a different spin to it. So is really about the additional, if you believe in emergency services, it's in addition to what has been already expressed by the volunteer fire and ambulance services. So you don't need to think about this one in relation as a top priority because it's the volunteer fire and ambulance. We're really kind of considering that as, all right, there's commitment towards that area. This would be other things in that emergency services grouping. So that's why it says additional ambulance general support, meaning additional to what's already been expressed. It's up there in that paragraph at the top.
In the
2.8.
in the fire company's application, were they inclusive of EMS, or was it specific to revenue loss and equipment? Was EMS included, ambulance runs included?
What we received from the fire companies was revenue loss.
Yep.
They projected or estimated what they lost in terms of their ability to generate funds.
Yep.
And also added costs. And some fire companies, as you know, have ambulance.
Yes.
And they did incur additional costs. And they also, in the ambulance service, we've learned they've lost revenue as well because during the shutdown and what we're told is that the industry across the nation and locally, fewer people relied on basic life support during the pandemic, either by the doctor's directives or whatever. They did not use. So the charges that they can normally tap to insurance companies went down. They saw a loss of revenue in their what they call their run revenue. Because they didn't have the billables to insurance companies that they normally have, and that was a loss.
Right. So that's included in this other.
Yes.
That was not effectively addressed in our initial allocation, or at least we don't think so. Is that what you're saying? We don't think it will? It's going to run out before then?
Right.
The 2.5 million or whatever will probably be
Well,
expended.
we're working with the fire companies and the leadership there to get that money out to the fire companies. And that's based on the information they submitted to us late last year.
Right.
What this category would be anything above and beyond that.
If we need it. So we may or may not need
Yeah,
it, but it's
future.
there. All right, yeah, because I think it's there, but maybe it gets covered in the funding.
Yep.
All right. So I think we're good.
Mr. Sweeney.
So just on that same theme, does the 2.8 million for the fire companies that's predetermined up in the top paragraph also include any money that the fire companies have received from their municipalities? Because I know that a fire company has received all that they lost from the municipality that they're in.
I know one company reduced their request to the county with a differential from what they got from their town.
Then it's not in that 2.8 million, because that 2.8 million was total from last year.
Yeah, here's where we're at. We had an initial submission in November. They followed up with a revised submission late December. And now where we're at, we just met with the Gerald Manley, president of the Kent County Volunteer Firefighters Association, and Jeffrey Brown of the Fire Chiefs Association yesterday. Had a very good meeting with them, and we're going to be organizing a follow-up meeting with the leadership of each company. There's additional documentation that they're going to need to complete for us, and there's attestation forms that they're going to have to sign. That, so there's an opportunity. There's going to be a correct up on all that, and one of the areas that they have to attest to is whether or not they receive funds from other either ARPA sources or other sources to offset their losses. And also along those lines too, Tetra Tech through Gina has offered to provide one-on-one assistance with each and every fire company if they need it to help them complete. Some may have the expertise to fill out a few forms, and others may need some help. So that help will be provided.
Okay, so where are we now?
Well, so far I've got 2 score sheets already submitted to the commissioner to my right and the commissioner to my left. So the rest of you want to fill out yours, and
We'll have it in by Thursday.
by Thursday. We also have an electronic form that we, like Gina has there, we can email that to you, and you can click and point and then email it back in if you want. So,
I'm going to call you tomorrow.
okay, you're going to give me yours verbally?
In the words of Glenn Howe, if you need me, I'll call you.
All right, so get them in by midday on Thursday.
On Thursday, so we can report to you in the weekend packet.
Okay. All right, thanks, Gina.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Stand by, Gene.
Okay, any
You
public
got it.
comments on any of these 6 items? 5 items.
Do we have any other guests on WebEx that wish to address Levy Court on any of the items that have been discussed under the Administration Committee? Not just the one we just discussed, but any of the others that we've discussed this evening. Now's the time to address Levy Court. Please state your name. Raise your electronic hand first, *3 on your mobile phone, or the raise hand icon, and we can bring you into the room.
Any questions in the room? Come forward, over here.
I guess my question is, how vague are the...
Can you talk in the microphone?
How vague are the descriptions on the checklist?
Just what you saw up there.
Just what you saw.
Just bullets.
Yeah.
They literally are just bullets, what you saw up
It's
there.
out there in that folder. You go out there, I've got a copy of it, that's what I went and got.
Now, we spent some time in committee discussing these various topics. So in our minds, we've reviewed some of these and have a general understanding of it, but on paper, it's just the bullets.
Have you guys heard from each individual group that's on those, or are they just more your opinions, what you think is important?
Yes.
A combination of both. Mainly, they've reached out to us.
Because there's 1,000 little things in each one of the bullet points that I don't think has been considered or broken down.
Sure. Yep.
That's it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Anybody online, Mark?
I see no hands raised online.
Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. That adjourns the Administration Committee, Finance Committee. Mr. Masson is chair. Turn it over to you. You have 2 items there.
Okay, the first item we have is a community event promotional grant for Destination Downtown Dover for 2022. History Heritage Hops event, Saturday, May 7th, and I believe we have Laura Whistler and Todd Stonecipher. Like to come up and have a seat?
We'll keep you awake up here.
You guys will.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me do my first request. So I appreciate you guys, Laura Whistler in Mike's office, so thank you. All right, so tonight I'm bringing forward the Community Event Promotional Grant request from Destination Downtown Dover for their 2022 History, Heritage, and Hops event, which will be taking place Saturday, May 7th. The request came in March 16th. They are seeking these funds in the amount of $750 to support signage for the event. You have in your packets the quote that they provided me. You can see that the total from Hartford Sound is $13,850 with $4,650 specifically for a video wall banner package. The group is switching to a banner video package this year as opposed to printed signage so that they can cut down on waste and just begin coming into 2022.
A little more flashy.
Yeah. So the wall will highlight sponsors, and one of which, should you agree to move this motion forward, would be Kent County Levy Court. So I do have Todd Stonecipher here. Todd is one of the founding members of the group. He's also a local business owner in downtown Dover and a huge advocate for Dover as well. So if anyone has any questions, please let us know.
I have a question. No, I have a point to make. The point is, I am not here on behalf of the same organization that you saw me last time. This is a different organization.
$50 more of that, huh?
Right. So just wanted to make that clear.
Any of the commissioners have questions for Laura or Todd?
Yeah.
Move it forward.
Move
Can we
forward.
move this forward? Show of hands.
Consent agenda?
Maybe a craft list.
Okay, 7 and 0.
Craft brewery
All right.
list.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much.
I respect you guys so much.
You're welcome to stay.
For having to sit through all this.
You're welcome to stay.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. You guys had to sit
You
through
like
all
the
that.
first 2
Like
hours,
sitting
you love
in
the
the
next
minutes.
All of us do.
That's rough.
We're showing support from Mrs. Whistler in her very first presentation. And you all didn't haze her at all? I can't believe it.
Thank you.
Thank you. $750 is refreshing.
Yeah.
You wait till you see what I got coming. If we ever get there.
We will, I promise.
All right.
I'll take this one.
Okay, the next item on the Finance Committee is a proposed policy amendment to P 2201, amending Section 22-9 of the procurement policy. It's cost thresholds for bids and requests for proposals. Mr. Pettit-Demange?
Thank you, Commissioner Maston. Thank you. Yeah, we talked about this previously, and you recall that reported to you that last year the General Assembly, actually the state of Delaware, revised their thresholds for bid elements and requirements, and essentially they went from the levels that our policy currently states, which is $25,000 or above for non-public works purchases or projects, and $50,000 or above for public works projects. And the state raised those thresholds for state projects from $25,000 to $50,000 and from $50,000 to $150,000 respectively. And they also addressed the issue of requests for professional services, and they elevated the amount from $50,000 threshold to $100,000 threshold. And so what you received in your packet is a proposal to amend, as Commissioner Maston mentioned, policy P22-9, the procurement policy, to revise our written policy to reflect the same amounts that the state of Delaware has now established. And this is partly done because the Delaware Code says that Kent County shall adhere to the provisions of the state of Delaware, Title 29, Chapter 69, with respect to purchasing. Now, we're not required to elevate, but my sense from speaking with several of you is that there was an interest in elevating these amounts, so we're proposing to match what the state requirements are with respect to things that require bids or RFPs, requests for proposals. There's one other element about this proposal that I want to highlight here, and it's described in paragraph 3 of the memo. Our written policy today says that for any purchases that are $25,000 or $2,500 or less, $2,500 or less, we can go right to market. We do not need to shop for competitive prices. However, in 2008, in the wake of, and really the early dawning of the recession locally, we instituted a series of proposals to rein in spending. And one of them was to freeze that policy, and we went to essentially a lower limit of $100 or less. So things that were $100 or less did not require any kind of shopping for price. Anything above that requires a minimum 3 price quotes. Now, they don't have to be written price quotes. They can be off the internet. They can be, actual written if you wish. And I know there's been some concern about that expressed over the course of time. And so what we're proposing right now is to amend the policy right now to change the upper ceiling of that from $2,500 to $200 for non-public works purchases, and to $400 from the $5,000 that is in the policy now for public works projects. These are, again, for supplies and things of that nature that are small costs that will not require staff to seek competitive pricing. And I know there's probably differing ideas around this amount, and I encourage you to collectively arrive at something you all can agree on, or at least 4 of you can agree on, because that's where we need to be. I am not wedded to any particular number here. okay? Just so everyone understands that. But I've talked to several of you. I also conferred with Ms. Durham on this late last week, and hence the $200 and $400 amount that's in the proposal right now. I've asked Susan to be here also to participate in this discussion if she can shed some light from her perspective on the challenges that purchasing presents and keeping documentation that reflects conformity with our policy. So I'll stop there. I'll turn it over to you. I think part of it's very simple, and that is matching the state thresholds. The more difficult one that would take a little bit of discussion here is what I just talked about, and that is that lower level exemption for non-pricing or non-competitive pricing.
Commissioners want to weigh in?
Sure.
Commissioner Hall?
So today I was doing a little bit of research. And so the federal government is 2.9 million employees. They consider a micro purchase non-bid requirement. So they operate off a $10,000 limit. Everything above that requires 3 bids. And even the state of Delaware's limit for its 16,000 employees is $10,000. So going from $100 to $200, I mean, I assume that the existing policy, before we change anything, was written before 2008. So 7 commissioners voted and thought $2,500 was an acceptable amount. And, modifying it because of the recession made sense, but that was 14 years ago. So I think at the very least, we could just restore the original $2,500 and $5,000 limits and just try it for a couple of years. I understand concerns about waste, fraud, and abuse, but I think we could probably set up an auditing system that would be adequate to just make sure that we don't have waste, fraud, and abuse. Because how many purchasing agents do we have in the county, roughly, out of 300?
Well, we really don't have purchasing agents per se. Departments have their budgets, and we have managers that will shepherd those purchases. But all the purchases ultimately get submitted through finance for review against the budget, purchase order issued, and all that sort of thing. So, and part of the check is, have you gotten 3 price quotes?
Right.
If it's in that range, or if it's higher than 25 or 50, if it's a public work, have you done your due diligence and done the RFP or the invitation to bid? And some certain dollar amounts, those dollar amounts come to you all for, you see a lot of those, mainly Diana brings a lot of them forward, big dollar projects, and we occasionally have like our ARPA consultant, we bring that to you because it's well above those ranges and it requires your execution. Susan, did you have anything to add on that?
First off, in response to one of the things you said, Jeff, was when comparing to the state of Delaware and the federal government, they also have central purchasing, we do not. So they have certain things that are the more low ticket items are centrally purchased, they're bought in bulk, and you order it through.
Right, yeah.
So that does make a difference. We do not have that. And so, so they do, even with that, they have to send vouchers through, and everything's pre-approved before they buy anything, whether it's a penny or, $10,000. So this was a compromise of our way of really handling it too, so that we could monitor it. It has been effective. I can see why the threshold should change some, because we all know that things have gone up a lot. But the ability to monitor the spending habits and take care of some of the issues that were not handled properly was actually a benefit to some of the departments as far as issues they didn't have to deal with that we were, handling through this practice. I personally feel in my position that it has been very effective and it's been beneficial to the county. And I know there are folks that do not like it. But in the way things are right now, I mean, in the world, it's a lot easier to get those three prices. It's just a nuisance. The other thing that we do also is when we can, by monitoring it, we make sure people do local business. We make that a priority for those small ticket items, especially that the local people are given the business. People have a tendency right now to want to go to Amazon because it can be delivered to your door in a day. But if the hardware store has it, then we'll shift you over to the hardware store because he's local. And that's who we should be supporting, even if it's, $1 to $20 more. So just things like that. So it's had its benefits.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Thanks, Commissioner Masson. So Susan, the process for getting something that costs $99 only requires one signature of the director of the department wanting to buy it?
Well, for anything now, the way they do it is they just let us know that they want to buy it, and they don't have to, if it's $99, then they just state that they want to purchase this item. It's under $100, and so we note it, we give it a number, and we track it that way. We make sure they have the money in their budget to cover it. We make sure it's an eligible item.
So there's still a lot of monitoring going on, even though the threshold's $100. If we move the threshold to $200, that monitoring still exists.
Yes.
That's not going to change.
Yes.
Right?
It doesn't matter what the threshold is, you're still going to monitor it.
Exactly. So moving it to $200 or moving it to $2,500 really doesn't change anything.
Well, the $2,500 will make a difference because they're going to say wherever they want to buy it. We also help monitor keeping it contained that way too. And, it's obviously your decision, but I'm saying that when you jump from the 200 to 2,500, that's going to be 90% of the purchasing where they just go out and get whatever.
So are you saying 90% of purchases are under $2,500 across the board for every department in the county?
Well, no, not sewer fund, public safety, or they're too higher, they have higher ticket items, but most of the folks, except for contractual services for supplies and everything, and not IT, but most other people are pretty routine supplies like that.
Okay.
Commissioner Hall?
I should know this, but I don't. So we do everything by purchase order. We have no purchasing credit cards. Is that right?
Not yet, we don't.
Not yet.
Okay. So really then, somebody in planning, somebody in Parks and Rec, they want a box of bolts. And the actual purchase gets executed through your office. Or the purchase order gets issued from your office and then they take it down to the vendor and buy the box of bolts.
Well, actually, they just they get a number, and all they do, then they'll go buy it, and most of those orders don't require a purchase order. But that example there would not require a physical purchase order, it's just letting us know that.
So it still seems to me then, with everything being centralized from finance, that whether it's $1 or $1,000 or $1,500, there's still a lot of oversight. It's just how many employees do we have on the phone or on the internet researching the cost of that box of bolts? And one of my concerns is, I'm pulling a number out of the air, but I'm going to guess that probably 80% of the things we buy over and over and over again. So if we need a pump for the plant, small pump, maybe it's $1,500 and it wears out every 2 years, we're just going to get the same pump over and over again. So it's not like we have wild exotic purchases that we don't have baselines for. So anyway, I wanted to, because if I'm wrong in my thinking, I'm open to learning new things.
Yes, we do have baselines for some things. The treatment plant, we also have, it's a little different because we also, have for uniformity purposes, we stick with a certain
Yeah,
vendor as
sure.
a sole source because we want the pumps to be the same.
Right.
And the fit out to be the same where you're going to put them. So there's unique circumstances to the different purchases. So.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Angel, you had a question?
Thank you. Well, I remember when we had to do this back in the 2008 for cost containments because we were getting, I think, Mike, you told me it was about $800,000. We were on the hole at the time. So we did this to really bring in everything in the line to make sure that we could get the best price for the best buck, basically. Now, having said that, it's 14 years later, and everything's gone up, as Susan just said, and $100 may not be enough for small items, but $200 should be great, and I think she's looking at that as a way of making an appeal for that. So, for me, it comes down to, and Ms. Mass and I were having a discussion about this earlier, but I trust our staff, I really do. But at the same time, we want to make sure that what they do is what we can pay for based on we have a budget, and they can come in and look at it, and it goes through the system, and it gets paid for, and it's done. So if we raised it to $200, I don't have a problem with that. As far as the state, going from 25 to 50,000, I've been pushing for that, Mike, for 2-3 months. So that, to me, is a no-brainer because that's what the state's doing. So.
But Commissioners, let's take a step back. All of us sit and we approve a budget that's presented by Jeremy Shepard, Mrs. Gold, Sarah, whoever. They prepare a budget for us. It's blessed most of the time, I think, by Susan, and we approve that budget. So each department has a budget, and I bet you it's by line item, how much they can spend, what's wages, what's benefits, what you can spend for different parts, okay? Now, once again, I didn't come from the government world, but coming from the corporate world, if I have a budget, and if we really are trusting our directors to do their job, and we're giving them the tools to do their work with, if there's something they need, whether it's manila file folders, whether it's Sharpies, or maybe it's some chemical that Mrs. Gold needs for the sewer plant, they know best what they need to run that facility. And granted, I'm very careful about the money that we spend because, after all, I'm a resident, it's my tax money too. But my concern is we're having these people, we're paying them a good salary to do a job, but we want them to go in and hunt through the internet to come up with three quotes, 3 bids, whatever, for 500 sheets of paper, and we order a case. The time they spend to do that, could it not be better utilized by working on a project or maybe working on something to support the $75,000? I don't know, but I worry about from a management position, because no matter what we set that threshold at, whether it's $100 or $200, $1,000, $2,500, the process doesn't change one bit. And if we're worried about, as Susan says, people ordering from Amazon instead of local, my gosh, when that purchase order, when somebody asks for a purchase order number, and I'm assuming they tell you where they're ordering from. If they don't, it's going to be on the bill when it comes in that it's coming from Amazon. I mean, you know who the vendors are, and I think, Mike, you gave me a good example this morning, because my problem is I didn't know how you got to where you are. So for me, it's always good to have a little bit of knowledge. And he mentioned about an individual who, at the end of the year, said, I've got money left in my budget. So if I don't spend that money in that budget, then when I do my budget for next year, they're not going to give me the money. So I'm just going to go out and I'm going to buy widgets, okay? But if that's the culture we've created here, that says if you don't spend what we give you, you're not going to get it next year, then shame on us, because that's not the culture you should be creating. And again, I'm the new person here. And so I don't know what the culture is. I just know that I didn't come from a world where you spend everything, but if you needed extra money for projects abroad, then you went and you presented your case, did your business case, and sometimes you got it, sometimes you didn't. But my concern is that do we want our people just searching the internet for prices just because we have a threshold that's $100, $200, $150, I think, which is what I understand Commissioner Buxton was happy with. What are we expecting our people to do? And is this the prudent use of their time and of money? Because every minute they're on that phone, we're paying them. I don't know what the right number is. I just think from an employee perspective, $100 or $200 threshold when I need something is pretty silly in a county the size we are with the number of people we have. And do we trust our employees to make good decisions? And if we don't, it certainly ought to come up when these purchase orders go through. And I'm sure she's got enough controls to choke a horse, because I know how Susan operates and I commend her for it. But are we expecting our people to do things they shouldn't be doing when they could be maximizing their time otherwise? That's my only concern. But I think $100 to $200 is really frivolous in times like this. And we're not in a recession. It has been 14 years. I don't know that $2,500 is the right number, but $100, $200, $300 just seems ridiculous to chase numbers on the internet. I don't want people on the internet. I want them working. Now, if they're working on projects on the internet, I'm happy. I'm not out searching for calls for a bottle of Clorox or a box of Staples. But that's just me. That's the world I came from. I'm off my soapbox.
Can I
Yes, sir.
just respond to one point, and I just make sure that something you said is understood. I think we have a great culture here now with respect to shopping best price and being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. May not have always been that way. And I'm talking about, when you asked about that, I was talking about years ago, before this policy, we had people who would spend down their budget.
I know, you told me.
And this eliminated that, and this has made everyone, I believe, a lot more conscious of the purchases that they're making on behalf of the citizens. And so I want to make sure that was clear.
No, I understand. My concern was if that's the culture we created, shame on all of us. And I
What
take
we've created now is
responsibility even
very
if I
good. We
wasn't
have no
there.
shame at all.
But today, I think the people here, they care about the county, they care about the money, and I don't think they'd spend it frivolously. But again, that's my interaction with the folks here. I trust them. 150, no way.
You're saying 150, no way, what do you mean?
Because I think that's the threshold you wanted was 150, I heard.
I don't know if you heard or just didn't listen, but what I was stating was,
You know what he said? You know what you told me this morning? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Commissioner Maston and others, I've been in this fight alone. Now I'm being chastised for moving it from 100 to 150, which is kind of funny. Because I was getting my tail kicked because I argued that we should move it. And what's your flavor? If we're not going to move it to 1,000, and we're not going to move it to 500, if we're not going to move it to 200, let's move it to something. How
Exactly.
about 150? So there's no science to it, is where I am. I think that Mike and others have compromised. I never presented this in the last couple years as a cure to a major problem. I have never articulated that the decision made by the county administrator and supported by the finance director to make that decision wasn't a wise decision, and it's been evidenced by the cost savings and the culture created. It really has. So I'm not here to advocate to move away from 25 to 2,500. If we do that, that's fine, but I'm not here to state that. I was advocating that the 100 threshold that we had stuck to post-recession began to be a little bit too nitpicky, that's all. And I heard it from several of our employees, and I tended to agree with them. So my summary is this: I'll listen to whatever you want, but a doubling of it when it was locked for 14 years at 100, I'll take what I can get. That's not horrible. At least it alleviates the cap and at least reflects the inflation that we're in, not just 2008 or even the inflation that we're in 2021 too, but moving forward. So I support it as a $200 and a $400 move. If there's another suggestion to move it to something different, I'd consider it. But I value you have two department heads, county administrator and the finance, who both have articulated, Susan stated very clearly, this measure is effective in controlling our spending now and in the past. So I'm done, right? I'm convoluting it a little bit. I supported this. I probably am responsible for it being here. I support the 200. I'll listen to other suggestions. I'm not in support of just moving it back to the policy. I think the position stated by those folks has to be respected. Hold the line somewhere. There you go.
Commissioner Hall.
So Susan, no department can exceed their authorized budget. I mean, if Parks and Rec went through their entire budget, burned through the whole thing, and then brought in a request for a purchase order for a $100 item, you'd call them on that, right? You wouldn't just allow them to spend over what we've authorized through the budget.
Well, that's true. If they already go out and buy it and don't go through the process, then I can't prevent it. I have to figure out how to find the money to cover it. I mean, I'm not saying that Parks and Rec would do that, but let's just say if a department did that, I can't, we don't prevent people from buying. I mean, they can break the rules. So I can't say that that's a scenario that I can protect totally.
Okay, because, I mean, that was a great point. It's not like planning can just decide to go to Vegas tomorrow.
No.
Take their I actually had a guy take his credit card and fly to Texas, and that was a whole nother story. But, so we have, that's the whole point of the budget process, is we authorize aggregated line items to say, yes, your department is allocated this much money. They built that budget off of dozens or hundreds of line items, and then they crank through it, And so do we have 300 employees on the phone calling Bob's Hardware because they called Bob's Hardware 9 months ago for the same box of bolts? And
They don't stay the same price for that 9 months. Now, vehicle expenses and stuff like that, we do go, and as far as routine vehicle stuff, most of that's already established for a year. They'll give us a price and hold to it. If we do establish certain prices for a year and stuff like that. So, and the other thing I'll just tell you, and you guys decide the threshold, but one of the things that Levy Court has been very great to the employees for their due diligence for this is the money that they've saved, you've given back to them. You've given back to them in COLA or something else. And so, that's paid for some of that stuff, the money that they've saved in going through this process.
That's an excellent point. But I was thinking along those same lines that each budget cycle, and I think more and more often, we're hearing requests for personnel that we don't approve. And so what that means is that the existing staff has to absorb that workload, year after year of not getting approved positions. So now the same people that are there are doing that extra work in addition to having to do, call whatever you want, the administrative overhead of functioning as a department. So to me, it was a way of cutting back, of just, even if it's just, a 5-minute phone call, but when you aggregate 100 5-minute phone calls over a year and then walking them around, getting them to your department, and you know what I mean? It does add up, and that's why I think the state and the feds loosened up and just expedited purchasing 20, 30 years ago. So I don't know.
But they did do it differently, remember? They went out and every year they go out and they contract their stuff ahead of time. They get all these contracts and state, this is where you'll buy your office supplies. This is where you'll buy your various items. So they have a whole section and spend millions of dollars getting those contracts in place.
Yeah, federal supply schedules and all that stuff.
So theirs is just different. I mean.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right, I don't know what the right number is. 200 to me just seems like it's not much of a relief in terms of workload. It just acknowledges the price of inflation. So I'll stop talking.
Mr. Angel, you have a question?
Well, for me, it's not about the budget. It's about spending money to buy an item and getting a bid or a quote or whatever. So going from 100 to 200, in 12 years, to me, is still frivolous, but it's still a system that's going to work. And it's been working since Mr. Pettermosh put it in place and Susan in 2008. So I just want to say that I'm fine with 200.
Anyone else have? Commissioner Buxton?
You didn't suggest that 200's the option. Do you think you staying? Where do you think you might be?
In my world, it's $1,000, but I know it's not in your world. I could compromise at 500.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I just worry that, you know, the time that people are spending to do this, what is the real value we're getting when you're going from $100 to $200? I mean, that's my only concern area, because maximize the use of people's times in a productive manner.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not prudent with spending, because I'm prudent with my own, but I just worry, you know, how we asking them to spend their time.
Yeah, and you're not wrong.
It's a fair compromise.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Not, I get it.
Because she's got policies and procedures in place, and so does he. So whether that threshold is $1 or it's 100,000, there's a process in place that's going to guard against foolishness.
As I stated, 200 was just a doubling of it, just to say, wow, okay, so we are going to have this conversation now. It doesn't have to stay at 200, but I'm happy if it does, because it, I think, moves in the right direction. You just said, what's a fair compromise?
Commissioner Ashton said 500, she would compromise to 500. I said that's a fair compromise if that's where you guys want to go.
Well,
I would not double it for sewer fund, though, to 1,000.
I'm sorry?
And Diana's not going to like this answer, but I said I would not double sewer fund's bottom line to 1,000. I would keep their bottom line at 500 also.
listen, I had a conversation with the county administrator. We came to sort of an agreement that would 200 be a fair doubling, given the years in between and the inflation, and he agreed. So I'm not gonna walk away from that. If there's an option to vote on something different, if somebody wants to suggest and it gets the votes, I'll support it. 500, whatever. If not, I'm gonna stay with the 200, because I'm not gonna move off that. So, I don't know. You guys take control of this.
You need to get a consensus if things weren't rolling here.
Yeah.
But a consensus on what?
Of a price. Number. You need a number.
Can we get a consensus on $500?
At least.
I'm good with 500. You need 4. I'd do it.
Show of hands?
So it looks like you got 4.
So we got the 4, then I didn't backdoor Mike, I went with the consensus. There we go.
500?
Across the board, 500 for public works.
Anything.
Yeah, no, I understand
Is that fair? I mean, not fair, but doesn't upset the apple cart, right? That doesn't upset things, right? It moves it, it's a significant move, but it doesn't upset things.
No,
Crazy.
no, that, we can make that work if that's what you all want. And everybody will like that answer.
There you
For the
go.
most part. And they still have to get pre-approval for their purchases.
Right.
Please don't take that away.
Yes.
No, and there would be no point in doing that, Susan. You still need the approval.
Okay.
So if someone comes in and says, I want to buy 5 widgets that are $495 a piece, you're going to step in and say, no, that's an aggregate of $2,500, you need to get 3/4. Right?
That's correct.
That's correct.
I'm good.
We also have, we already have some creative purchasing where we have a threshold, and so they go in at 10 o'clock and then they go back out and buy the second item at 10:01. So, to break it out.
Creative bookkeeping. Okay. Any public comments?
Everybody online?
No, we got one
It's not going to be that bad. Diana Gold, Department of Public Works. I'm pleased that we're changing the numbers, and this is more of a question. And Mike and I had a discussion on this. So Delaware Association of Professional Engineers, a long while back, lobbied the state government to add in qualification-based selection for engineers and architects. And Mike can feel free to talk with me later on. I don't necessarily need an answer tonight. I guess the question I had, not an hour either. The question is our wording in our policy flexible enough to allow qualification-based selection? In Delaware Code, the way it's written is that fee proposals are not supposed to be solicited. And I just wanted to mention that piece of, if we're going to change the document, if there's anything else we want to change, it might be good to add it.
Let me respond to that. Thanks, Diana. Thanks, Diana. I started to go down that road, and I thought, this issue is enough for tonight. I already have that one drafted, and I didn't want to put it into this because I thought it would be a little bit too much for one policy, but we've taken, a couple bites here. That'll come up following this, after we get this in place. What Diana's talking about is a separate, like right now we have this RFP, request for proposals, and it deals with purchases of materials, and we can also do services under that. But the state law says for professional services, which are a certain class of services, and they're well-defined in what they are, like architects, engineers, IT professionals, certain professions like that. Your request for proposals is based on qualifications, not price, first. And so that's what you select, and that's the difference between an RFP and an RFQ. RFQ is focused solely on qualifications and then negotiate price versus RFP, where price is part of the consideration, and you can pick the lowest price if you want. Or we usually weight it, and that's how our workaround has been. We create a scale, weighted scale on different elements of the proposal. But in truth, to comply with Delaware Code for professional services, we should develop an RFQ process, and we will. We'll propose it anyway. We'll see where that goes.
3 minutes.
Thanks.
Maybe.
Any other public comments?
So, Madam Chairperson, what we'll do is we will amend this ordinance according to what we discussed regarding $500, and policies do not require a public hearing or anything. This is an action item. So if it's your pleasure, we could just amend this based on this discussion, put it under new business next time for a vote. We'll just submit a new version of this out to you next week.
Okay.
Yep.
That's fine, sir.
Okay, very good, thank you.
This portion is adjourned.
Okay, Public Works Committee, Mr. Howe, Chair.
Now
We
for
have
the
6 items.
Now for the exciting stuff. Now listen,
Commissioner.
I want to tell you
Yes.
that Diana wants to go home. We would rather stay here indefinitely.
Yeah.
But out of respect to her, I've given her my blessing to speak so quickly.
Commissioner
You better
Howe,
not.
You'll be happy to know I spoke to her in advance of the meeting because I didn't want to get yelled at by you.
I'm tired of yelling at you. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
talk to her about
Take
I'll
it away.
remain silent.
Okay, our first item is long-range wastewater plan engineering services contract. In order to obtain the services, we advertise an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications. We received 7 submittals. A committee of 4 staff ranked the submittals, and then we selected 3 for interview. The interviews were conducted on March 10, ranked in order as KCI, Johnson, Murmuran, and Thompson, then Whitman, Reckart. So we seek authorization to begin negotiations with KCI. And if the negotiations are unsuccessful, following the Delaware Code, we would proceed on to the next ranked firm. We've never had to, in the past, proceed to the next ranked firm, but that is what the Delaware Code allows. And then there are 2 motions to support that. The funding for the work is $50,000 from DENREC SRF wastewater matching planning grant and $100,000 in sewer fund operating revenues.
Good. What are your questions before we have the speed vote? No questions, no comments? All in favor, consent agenda?
Consent.
Item 2.
Item 2, Paris Villa and London Village Septic Elimination Project. Change order number 1, Teal Construction. It's a change order for material cost increase. So when we received bids for this, it was January. And I think by the time we went to Levy Court, I believe it was February or March of last year. But we were unable to proceed with the project until we completed an income survey and realigned and adjusted the funding. So it was almost a year before we gave Teal the go-ahead that they had the contract. And of course, prices increased. There were problems with PVC because there was a shortage of resins, a shortage of raw materials. There were facilities that were impacted by ice storms. But basically, the cost increase we're looking at is $234,295.62, and the funding is available from contingencies. The funding is USDA loan and grant, as well as the ARPA funding that has been approved by Levy Court. And we would like you to approve the change order contingent upon USDA concurrence.
Very good. Yes.
Diana, what's the impact on the residents? Any?
As long as we stay within the contingencies, we're good.
Okay, thanks.
Any more? Now, just for the record, $234,295.62. I'm going to donate the 62 cents. I don't want any plaques or anything like that, okay? Deal?
Sounds like a conflict of interest to me. I don't know.
Do what, Michael?
That's nothing.
Okay, I'll call you.
I'll call you.
Okay, consent agenda. Bucky, come on, man, you're slow. 7 Up. Let's talk to you, boy.
Item number 3, chemical purchase anionic polymer. So we had a contract in place. It was supposed to be in place till the end of August to purchase polymer. We actually use more than one polymer at the plant. We have 3. And in biosolids, we use cationic and anionic polymers. Our pricing was supposed to stay in place until August of this year. We got a letter from our supplier that they were unable to provide us with the product for the price that we have. So they canceled the contract in writing. At the termination of the contract, the price was $1.95 per pound. It takes a really long time for this material to arrive. Last time it took about 19 weeks. That was placed in September of 2021. So if we place our order now, we're expecting it to arrive in September of this year. We're also expecting that we may need to look at other polymer options.
Yeah.
We may be able to find something that's comparable and maybe the same price or less price, maybe more availability. We won't get that lucky, but I can hope that it'll be more available and maybe cost less.
Okay. Very good. I'm sorry, did that?
Last thing, it's a 24% price increase. It's increasing by 47 cents a pound. That's
Okay.
it.
Questions, comments? Consent agenda? 7 Up? Go ahead. Number 4.
Chemical contract, quicklime contract extension, Carmeuse. So we have an existing contract with Carmeuse. We're looking to extend it. The contract was a 2-year contract. The price was $190.97 per ton. They're offering us a price of $220.97 per ton. It's an increase of 15.7%. Last time we did not take the option of an extension. When we bid it out, it cost more than the price offered for the extension. We estimate we use 2,100 tons of quicklime per year. It's used in the biosolids production. Based on that, we believe that the annual spend for this upcoming year of the contract would be $464,037. We propose to approve that Levy Court approve the contract extension at the price given.
That's your approval. Questions, comments? Consent agenda? 6 Up? Next item.
Local limits evaluation engineering services contract award. And it's actually an extension of the contract. We have an existing contract in place. It was authorized by Levy Court to negotiate in April of 2019. The contract was for a lump sum of $55,000. Levy Court actually authorized us to negotiate up to a price of $65,000. We've had some changes in work scope, and we've had some delays in hearing from EPA. It's been about a year and a half. EPA has reached out to us and provided some comments. And we have 2 options. One is to pursue the the data that was submitted. And with that idea that we provided a proposal of $25,000 to continue in that vein. We may be changing the direction a little bit. We're having a meeting with EPA this week. And if something does change on that, I would be coming back to Levy Court with an additional recommendation.
All right. Questions, comments? None. Consent agenda? 7 up. Next item.
Biosolids Capacity Expansion Project, Screen Equipment Bid Award. So this is a project to replace major equipment and other equipment used in biosolids processing. We're looking to award the sludge screening equipment only tonight. The remaining major equipment purchases will be discussed at the committee meeting on April 19th. We advertised this as a package for equipment procurement, package number 1. With that, when the submittals were received, they were received in a technical package and a cost proposal package. So this is a scoring of the supplied equipment. It is not based on low bid. Tonight we'll be talking about the screens. And additionally, we had a cost update, and we'll be talking more about the full cost update at the meeting on 19th. The funding that we have for the screens, we have $13,000 in loan from DENREC in place. Based on the scoring system, we recommend award to Huber. They scored 96 out of 100. Huber, why we're here tonight is they were unable to extend their bid for 47 days to allow us to meet and talk about additional funding options. Huber indicated that there's a volatile steel market, the story of everything I'm hearing now about price increases. So we really wanted to lock in this price, and I talked with Mike, and at the last minute, we moved forward with this on the agenda. So my apologies that we were last on the agenda and the memo went out late. But again, we're recommending that the purchase be awarded to Huber Technology in the amount of $322,000, and the money is coming from the Delaware Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund loan.
All right, same question. Any questions, comments? Consent agenda, 7 up. All right, are there any comments from our audience, either on the air or out in the audience?
Mark, do we have any guests on WebEx any longer?
No go?
No hands raised online.
Okay, very good. Man, after all that money, it makes your $750 request sweet as candy, I'll tell you. All righty, Mr. President?
Thank you. You are adjourned. We do have executive session. We will adjourn to caucus room for executive session. We will not be coming back until next week.
All right.
Kind of figured. Diana. Oh, incidentally, we did that in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well done, man. Put you in charge of all the committees.
I didn't ask a question at all, too. That was pretty good.
I don't know if it would work. Make too many enemies.
Because if it's over $50,000, it has to come back to you all.
But that was on your budget for $50,000.
Still comes back here because of the
I'm
policy.
asking why.
Because that's what's in the
I thought we
policy.
discussed that. We were going to change that.
Oh, we didn't. You haven't changed it yet.
What?
So everything on her budget, everything that she
We've already
presented
approved it in the
was already
budget. It
approved
goes
in
back
her
here again
budget.
and get
Why are we
reapproved.
looking at it again if we already approved it?
I think.
These are the individual numbers for what we just talked about. So we talked about changing the limits of public works to be $150,000.